I am considering the idea that you could find a patterning to history, a cyclical approach, if you will. Been compiling dates.
Dates of what?
Dates of fucking everything, apparently.
Just rising and fallings of empires and degeneration of society.
That idea, yes, but not necessarily an idea of cycles of specific things. Not cycles of countries or just data mining, essentially. And well, now I've managed to cram the last 4,000 years of history into my head, including with dates and turning points and so on. Inconclusive. And yet, I found some interesting things.
Like what?
So, well, I mean, consider, for example, that 1776 is an exact multiple of 4 times 444. 3 times 444 is 1332, which is when the Great Plague happened, start of the Renaissance, start of the Hundred Years' War. 2 times 444 is 888, which is start of Holy Roman Empire. 444 is fall of Rome, which is really, fall of Rome is technically 467, but the Vandals violated their peace treaty with Rome in 444, signed it in 442, violated it in 444, and then finally got to the gates of Rome in 453, sacked in 455, and 467, eventually, the Eastern Roman Emperor decided to have the Western Roman Empire assassinated.
So,
And 444 before Christ is the end of the First Peloponnesian War. Things like that, right? Now imagine like 10 different variations of applying this kind of thing. This is just today's. Today's potential cycle throughout history is 444s. Bringing to the fore many fours. And I've gone through Kissinger's books. Kissinger wrote a book called New World Order. No, excuse me, World Order. He left out New. Chapter 1 is called New World Order, where he essentially starts with the Holy Roman Empire by saying, well, modern world exists because of Holy Roman Empire, because of these reasons. And then he goes on to explain essentially history and why all Arabs should be killed for the good of Israel, and Chinks are a secret menace, but that we should exploit as slave labor anyways. Great guy, Kissinger.
sign anything.
Henry Kissinger. So that kind of autism.
It's weird to say that like any monolithic entity contributed to anything, because like of course it did, and so did everything else.
Yeah.
Why single out the Holy Roman Empire? It's kind of one of the less important ones. I mean, they're all important, but why the Holy Roman Empire? It's like you want to put some eccentric twist, have your own unique take on history.
Well, to be fair, the Holy Roman Empire thesis isn't wrong. The reason krautoids even exist is because of the Holy Roman Empire. The reason anything north of Italy really exists in any meaningful way is HRE
Yeah,
sourced.
I know what they contributed towards and what they caused, but it just seems like probably a kraut-centric historical take on the world and how it came to be, which is another eccentric, particular taste of history. Like, of course they did contribute. So did. You could say that about any of these large entities.
Well, here's how it goes. First of all, it's not krauts. Krauts are savages. The French formed the Holy Roman Empire under the Carthaginians. It was called the Carthaginian Empire. And it was founded by a bunch of guys who were called Charles and Louis, and who explicitly named their properties as the Frankish estates.
Yeah, the Frankish Empire, the one that under Charlemagne, the one that fractured into the three stupidly shaped empires.
Well, here's the timeline. Normans start to exist 7th century, in like the 700s. It's an easier way to say it. 7th century isn't right. 700s. And when is Clovis? Clovis is actually the start of this. Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing me the name of your company called Clovis instead of the fucking historical people. So, Clovis the First, king of the Franks, was a French guy, in the year 400 and something. That was the first to baptize himself, I think. Check. Yes, baptized in 508. This is the first occurrence of a Christian northern leader at all. This guy, of course, is from France, northern France, specifically where Paris is today, around that area. The rest of the Germanic tribes worship other shit. Over between like 500 and Charlemagne, what happens is that his descendants, really, his inheritors, are also Christians and also stick together and slowly grow their domain outside of, well, from northern France, which is really, when you look at it on the map, it starts. Can you visualize where Belgium is right now?
Yeah, the lowlands.
Basically, like north of France, Belgium, with Paris and Cologne on either sides of the Rhine being like the extents of that domain. And then, being Christian, they create laws, and from the laws, which is why, Christianity and the church is useful, because you get to enforce law and you get to declare yourself divine and a divine king or whatever. What happens by the 700s is that Charlemagne's ancestor, Charles Martel, Charles the Hammer,
The guy that fought the Iberian Moors.
Yeah, fucks the Moors in the ass, but also starts fucking Krautoids in the ass. Because the Krautoids were mostly left in their fucking forest. Anything essentially east of Cologne, where that is today, which is to say like Westphalia, was considered savage country, and he and his son and his grandson Charlemagne took it upon themselves to go and butcher as many Krautoids as they could to convert them to Christianity. Now, of course, Charlemagne was the one who finished the job by killing as many Krautoids as it took to Christianize every single one of them and bring them under the rule of essentially we all abide by the same rules, but you get to keep your chieftains. And those were the Merovingians. Those were the Carolingians. Merovingians were the guys before that. The Frenchmen. The Normans, really. While all of that was happening, Southern Europe was basically just disintegrating because of Islamic invasions. And essentially just the Islamic world had expanded from the year 600 when the Sand Niggers came out of their shithole to take advantage of how the Byzantines and the Sassanids were weakened and invaded everything. Invaded their side of the world. And then everybody else kind of said, oh yeah, we're Islamic too. And got into the power base of that whole thing. So Southern Europe, mess, big mess.
Yep.
These northern guys. Sorry, am I cutting you off right now?
I just said yep.
Okay. What Charlemagne does that was particularly important is because he finally creates a power base in the north of Europe, based in northern France. This hadn't existed. Before that, it was just essentially tribal fuckers who lived off of killing each other in the forest and doing just about exactly nothing. Charlemagne decided, I am emperor now, because, of course, it was the big fashion to become the new emperor, right? Everybody was conscious of, after the Roman Empire, who was going to be the new empire. The Muslims in the south decided, we're the empire now. And these guys in the north decided, we're the empire now. So what they did, and here's the most important part, the last of the Nordniggers invaded the Vikings. The whole Viking thing, I remember there was a show that was started a few years ago. It was very popular. Vikings. It was all over Pole. Vikings fascinate people because they were effectively the last holdout of snow nigger culture and way of life.
Ironically, the most successful Viking was a Christian convert, and I forget his name.
So exactly. So what happened is that within their own country, they started feeling the pressure because they started having Christians. They started having leaders that said, okay, I'm Christian too. I get to get into the power base that would eventually become the HRE. So what happened is that all the Vikings were like, this is bullshit. We're going to expand immediately. And so they got all their niggers on boats and they invaded mostly England. But they tried to go into northern France, and there was that famous battle where they tried to hit Paris, which was kind of like peak Viking invasion, hitting Paris, and it was peak stupid as well, because they got their shit pushed in by like 300 French soldiers because they had walls, and Vikings don't understand the concept of walls. What happened is that the guy who held the city of Paris happened to be important. The last of the Carolingian, a guy called Charles the Fat, got there late with his army, and it was up to Charles the Fat to defend the guy in Paris from the Vikings. He didn't do that. He got there late, and when he got there, he negotiated with the Vikings. Nobody liked Charles the Fat. He was a loser. And so what immediately happened is that Charles the Fat died. Nobody really knows how. He left no real instruction on how to divide Carolingian properties. And the guy who held, I forget his name, I think Odo I think is his name, Odo, held Paris, was like, well, I'm the leader now. And so he was the leader now. And that was the end of the Carolingians. And what happened when he did that, by naming himself emperor, is that he ended the whole bloodline thing that the Carolingians had going on, where it was Charlemagne's son of his son and Charlemagne's grandfather, who was Charles Martel, and all that stuff. They were all related. Well, he kind of cut that off. And he kind of designed the first HRE system of you get attacked, everybody defends. But otherwise, we mind our own fucking business. And that also, when Charles the Fat died, is when they first created an important treaty. And that was in 888. Charles the Fat dies. What they did is that they sort of drew territories. I don't remember if it was because of Charles the Fat or something like that, but the territories they drew essentially resembled modern-day Europe, with France being France, and Germany being Germany, and the Low Countries being the Low Countries. And that was essentially the start of Europe. You had the Battle of Hastings, and like 100, 200 years later, almost 200 years later, Normans just invade Britain and say, this is ours now. And they kick out all the Celt niggers.
They started the cementing of borders, the federations.
Yep. Essentially the warrior orders of, we get together and we crush this particular threat, or we get together and we crush this particular whatever.
Yeah, they definitely contributed in that way.
So the turning point was Charles the Fat dying. Charles the Fat. Tell me about Charles the Fat. Charles the Bold, Charles the Bald. Say, Roman emperors had like the something, and it was like because he was great. But of course, Nordoids, they named their emperor like goofy names, like Charles the Hammer. I think Charlemagne was named Charles the Young. You have Charles the Fat. You have Charles the Bald. His succession is Louis the Younger. It's goofy names. Goofy names. Cartoon characters.
Probably like affectionate names.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. It's very Matribe instead of Maglory and civilization type of thing. Charles the Fat. Deposition, death, and legacy. Charles increasingly seen as spineless and incompetent. Matters came to a head in late 1887. He received Odo Berengar Margrave at his court. See, these very Tolkien names already. He accused his wife Richgard of having an affair with his chief minister. Oh, well, he's getting cucked too. Terrible. Charles the Fat. What a wreck. Fucking the Brendan of history. She proved her innocence in an ordeal of fire. That sounds interesting. Ordeal of fire. and left him for the monastic life. What the fuck is ordeal by fire? Fucking, this is just Northern nigger shit. Is one form of torture, okay? Oh, so you have to walk over burning plowshares. So you have to walk on burning metal or holding burning metal. And if the wound healed, God like you. And if the wound not heal, God don't like you. And then we kill you. Wow. Good shit. So what happens? The Snicker dies. Could you not write fucking these people that write books on Wikipedia? Who gives a shit about Arnulf of Carinthia? It's like you have to remember everybody. Okay, so he fell ill and he died in 880. The empire fell apart. Okay, that's the key phrase. 888, the Holy Roman Empire falls apart. The French elected Odo, so that guy that defended Paris, as being big king. They had a fight. Some guy called Louis was king in the south. Da, 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 da. Fucking the person who wrote this article wrote more about how there were poems written about this Charles the Fat guy instead of what he actually did. What he did was die. So you see what I'm getting at.
Yeah. With the poems thing, some of these people you have no idea anything about them. Like if you wanted to know what he was like instead of all the accomplishments he did, because this is why we have things like traditionalists and monarchists, because they think that because we know nothing about what nobility did and what they were like, that they were probably really good.
Yeah, people who idolize the past. It was so much better. So much better.
That game of Stellaris really opened my eyes. Every tyrant has to be overthrown and replaced with consumerism.
Stellaris.
Fucking literally Space America, and I pledged loyalty to a demon god in the warp. Because
I know that. Yeah. I played quite a bit of Stellaris.
Jesus.
Playing as you can see the bias because playing as Space America is just infinitely rewarded by this game.
No, it's they actually fixed that. When's the last time you played it?
A while ago.
Yeah, like I booted it up recently and torrented a bunch of DLCs, and they actually fixed a bunch of shit. So being a xenophobe, for instance, and being an authoritarian, it's arguably better in many cases. It's just that playing as Space America and worshiping a demon god and just bringing the population of the galaxy, either peacefully or otherwise, into your demon covenant was like insanely hilarious.
No, that's the thing about that game is that there is zero focus on the population being everybody's kind of equal, right? Everybody's kind of equal except plus minus 4% on stuff. It's ridiculous.
It's. I mean, I was getting okay. So there was a Mongol-esque faction that was steamrolling a bunch of people, and so I was getting buried in refugees, and a lot of these refugees were actually xenophobes who hated me. So I was getting some worlds were flooded with people who hate us, and their stats were also stupid and useless. So then I was thinking, holy shit! Like I'm getting buried in these non-psychic subhuman sub people. So I was starting to think, okay, I am going to have to start converting into fascism and begin my purges.
That's pretty funny.
But then I opened a portal into the warp, and I entered into a covenant with a demon god called the Eater of Worlds, who gave me.
Oh yeah,
military
that
buffs.
I tried that once. That's a terrible idea.
Dude, it's terrible, but it was so fucking funny because, in the sense, I was being a liberal, egalitarian, consumerist, but ruled by oligarchs faction, overthrowing tyrants, liberating slaves, and signing migration treaties just to bring everyone into a facade of a utopia, which is actually dominated by a demon god who routinely eats vast populations. It was beautiful.
60% of the planets are prison planets, and they're objectively shitholes where the population isn't happy, and you just dump the people you don't like in there.
You could do that. You could resettle them.
That's what I always did.
But I was, egalitarian and stuff, so I couldn't do any Stalin-esque maneuvers on people.
I mean, those games are often like you play for resource maximization, and the game always rewards that because there's no like civil disruptment. There's not like your people being like, fuck you, we don't like you, and then you have debuffs for 10 turns type of thing. Even though that's what a real simulator for civilization should be like.
That's exactly what happens, except I mean, like there is scenarios where they're clearly like, okay, this empire is not going to succeed anymore. They're going to become a fallen shell of their former selves and try to hold out for the rest of the game. Shit like that happens. And then, you have all of your like there's also, I forget if this was in the older versions, there's also all of the populations have their own ethics and stuff. So it like the lack of the diversity and lack of homogeny is objectively a bad thing. Because in a democracy, even if it's a capitalist oligarchy, I was losing influence points because I could not appeal to all these political factions that were popping up. And then all of the foreign aliens formed their own political faction, which is explicitly for lobbying for the foreign aliens.
Why did they create this in the game? It used to be the game was like maximum shitlib, everybody gets along type of thing.
I don't know, but I was playing that and I was blowing. It started when I realized I was being buried in useless refugees, and then I was about to convert to fascism and start exterminating everyone. Because that would
used to be
for me.
that like you could take in completely incompatible populations, and I think it would just give you like a minus 10% to happiness or something like that. So what you would just do is you would either create planets where you could just like stack them up, so they could have their own planet, or you wouldn't give a shit because minus 10% happiness is completely inconsequential, and your happiness bonus was through the roof anyways.
My form, I don't know what determined it, but I think it was my form of government. It's the fact that we were egalitarian that I couldn't resettle people. I've never played as egalitarian, so I did it that game. So, and then I quickly realized it kind of sucks. And but that's the thing, is I realized that egalitarianism in this game made by Swedes fucking sucks. And then I was actually going to turn into genocidal fascism to purify my empire so that only genius psychic birds would remain.
You too play the superior species.
It's because I played Metroid, and they have science birds, science, spiritual magic birds, and that.
I was seriously disappointed that I couldn't also commit large-scale genocide even though it was space. Like, I have a giant fleet outside of a planet. Why can I not obliterate its atmosphere and kill everyone inside?
You can now. There's planet killers and shit.
Yeah, it seems like they created Galaxy Simulator, but without all the bad feelings, and then everybody was like, but the bad feelings is the good feeling. And then so they put them back out, and they made everybody pay like $100 worth of DLC for it.
Dude, now it's like you can be the Imperium of Man, and it actually is better than being egalitarian Xeno lovers.
Well, because here's the thing. Even in IRL history, being the Imperium of Man is always good until two things. First, your leadership collapses, because Imperium of Man is dependent on good leadership, of course. And two, you have a resource disruption. That doesn't mean you run out of resources. It means that there's a disruption. You become more so your resources become a supply disruption of 100 used to be, I don't know, like, yeah, when you're expanding into an empire, you don't have surpluses. You can't really take in big variations, and so invariably there's something bad happens, a famine or whatever, and you fucking run out of resources. Supply disruption. Yeah. But mostly leadership. It's usually the first thing to go. These fucking Egyptians, they have kings that are like, I have the biggest dick, and they invade everybody, and they destroy everybody, and they kill everybody, and they are the best, and they have all the temple. And then like 2 generations later, it's some inbred piece of shit that dies when he's 5.
Yeah.
And there's no leadership, even though they have all the resources you could ever want.
You should clarify that the Imperium of Man is different from your usual historic shit. I mean, this is going to be like in Stellaris, where you do have genetically enhanced shit. The Imperium of Man had, like, recently one of the Primarchs took over, and now they're having another golden age. Before that, the Imperium is kind of stagnating, and the only reason that they were kind of even losing was the sheer amount of how fucked they were externally.
Well, the whole story with like the Imperium is kind of it's Britoids, right? It's a Britoid fantasy, is what it is.
It's made by Britoids, but
but you can see how like Britoids really have like a very sick to their stomach feeling about not being the Empire anymore. So that they really tap into that. And then there's the Christ figure. And you can see like the sick to their stomach feeling of not having any more Christians. And then you could like extend it to be like, oh, it's white people type of thing. And just like Western civilization collapsing type of thing. And then you just roll up all of that, and then you create, the whole point of their setting is that the great leadership, the great spiritual leadership is dead, and they live on only in spirit. Right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the setting, is that you have lost the spiritual leadership. You have lost the leadership of whatever your thing is. And so the emperor is just like this machine. It's not the emperor anymore.
Yeah, subconsciously I could see them putting that in.
Well, you know, the whole space thing is just a reliving of Anglo culture of getting on a boat, going to a place, killing everyone there, take things, bring them back home, and create technology.
Well, create technology is kind of a.
That's kind of not what's happening in the Imperium.
Well, that's because it's post Emperor.
Even then, it was just the. It was just the Mechanicus building better armor, better mechs. They wouldn't do stuff like.
Okay, yeah, the mechanic has built the machines, but the Emperor made the Space Marines.
That's roughly the only thing he actually did of technological value.
The Emperor's actually kind of. Like, they didn't do it intentionally. He's kind of a dumbass.
The setting isn't exactly thought out particularly well.
It's just supposed to be like a grim, dark comic from the 80s. Where everything is absurdly fucked up. Except in those comics, racism was bad, but in Warhammer 40k, racism is survival.
I read like the original books, stuff from like Rogue Trader and all that stuff. And it is very different. It is supposed to have like an air of mystery about it. And
They're not supposed to have explained everything. You're not supposed
Exactly.
to know what the fuck the Chaos Gods are. You're not supposed to know where they came from.
exactly, everything is supposed to be behind like 3 layers of mystery was the whole point of the setting. Everything is very strange but also very familiar. And it was that kind of idea of, even 40,000 years in the future, it's still like barbarian style fighting and just like mysterious spiritual leadership that nobody understands and type of things like that. It was a new Middle Age, but in the grimdark future. And then, like 40 years of writing books for commercial purposes and people like projecting their fucking thing into it turned it into what it is now.
This is why the mysterious factions are commonly favored, like the Alpha Legion. They intentionally have nothing written about them.
Yeah, well, Alpha Legion are kind of, gimmicky. But then again, fucking so are every spaceman.
Everything has some kind of
Is a
gimmick,
gimmick.
that's used to market at a customer. Except the Alpha Legion is just that they're mysterious. They're like the CIA on steroids, and they're all just anonymous. They're all one.
Alpha Legion.
Yeah, but in Stellaris, the Imperium, it's better than being a faggot pussy, just normal egalitarian democracy. I wasn't full on pussy. I was a capitalist oligarchy egalitarian spiritual society.
Well, the everybody is egalitarian and everybody is happy and there's peace everywhere type of thing doesn't ever exist. And even in Stellaris, they functionally exist as just resource gathering pockets to be invaded later. Because offense is the only defense.
It was really. It was perfect though, because I was like surrounded by a bunch of egalitarians and spiritualists. Kind of, I mean, they were kind of everywhere in the galaxy. You're kind of on good terms with them, but then you run into like the assholes, the slave despots and stuff. So you can just steamroll them and no one cares, like Saddam Hussein. You can just steamroll them and no one stops you. You can just
You're like, these guys are assholes. They deserve to be conquered by us. And then everyone agrees with you. It would bring them into our beautiful democracy. And then they, unknowingly, by joining into our borders, are now part of the Demon Pact and will be sacrificed at some point.
I remember I managed to make the online version. Like for a while, you could get keys to essentially creating legal copies of the game so you could play online. I don't know why, but I managed to do that, and I managed to play like 3 games online. And what it effectively was like sitting in front of your screen for 3 hours as the power creep of micromanagement took place. And once the power creep was over, and you'd maximize your resources, and you'd created like those what do you call like the things that like harvest hundreds of like minerals and energy and shit.
Yeah.
And you had all that. Then you constructed massive fleets, and everybody constructed like more fleets that you could possibly like just even manipulate with your mouse, and threw them at each other. And then, of course, like autistic niggers would figure out how to create like the best weapon design and shit like that, and they would kind of win. Some mostly it was just players who got lucky on a particular area and had a better resource pile to throw at each other, and eventually like someone would break the stalemate and like take over the other guy and then take over everything.
Yeah, that's basically all that it was in the beginning.
That's basically history, nigga. Except history takes a while.
I wouldn't want to play that online because there's so much time investment into an empire that I would just be pissed off if I got screwed over. Got screwed over by someone who found a way to metagame ship weapon setups.
Well, IRL, in actual history, people invade each other over thinking, I'm objectively better than these people. They don't deserve to be on the dirt they're on. That's how that works. It's always like motivated by wanting to spread the good thing that we have going on that makes us better, clearly.
This is why I say people should play grand strategy games. They're not the end all, but you realize that everything is just bullshit. How geopolitics actually works. The rhetoric is all bullshit. The actual concerns and whatever. That's... you actually do need resources. The CIA does need to keep the Middle East in perpetual chaos to keep oil prices low.
Yeah, but even Kissinger makes his point in his book, is that states or orders of the world are created by these very human motivations, but then what takes over in when there is no crisis reshaping the world is exactly that. It's just resource motivated bullshit.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about the Middle East and why they're still just a perpetual shithole is because they constantly are trying to instigate the human-based conflict, because their existence as the Sand Niggers is completely incompatible with like the consensus from everywhere else.
Yeah, they're closer to the savagery, so they could be They could be motivated by more genuine things other than ensuring.
Well, they exist in a different consensus. That's the whole point. They exist in a different consensus. It doesn't have to be inferiority, superior. Krautoids existed in a different consensus, and that's why they thought war was a good idea.
Well, I mean, closer to the savagery is in, like, reality. Like, the brutality of reality is smacking them, so their mentality could be, anywhere. They could be civilized, but it's just, they're like completely different people to us because they're getting fucked around.
It's a good point.
That's why, that's why many of us are the way we are, because we run into problems with reality, and we see things as not being a just world.
Well, it's not just it's not an issue of reality. People who actually have an issue with reality, it turns into a very different thing. Jews who want to kill white people have an issue with reality, and who eat babies and all that stuff. That's an issue with reality. That's not an issue that starts when you're 3 years old, when you're 13 years old, and you're like, you know what everybody should be doing? They should be killing white children ritualistically. That's not what every young Jew is like. But the reason you get there is because you clash with people's consensus. So a young Jew is with the other young Goyim, and his consensus clashes with their consensus. They live within their own bubble, their own consensus, his consensus, different bubble. And so that clash, and that's what you're describing, is a clash of consensus. And with our respect, we create our own consensus, piecing together pieces of other consensuses, paradigms, if you will, that leads to a situation where you will want, for the sake of perpetuating your own consensus or paradigm, to go within the front of reality, because reality is a neutral thing. Reality is the dirt between our feet. Reality doesn't care about what the dominant consensus is.
I shouldn't have said that we have a problem with reality, but we see that our consensus is that we have seen we have turned the rock. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that people don't have a problem with the world. It's just that they forget the reasons that they should not be so optimistic about the world. Is that like, normal people are not normal, they're not sane, they're just boring and stupid, and they forget the past and the future. So they say my life is great, and then they don't realize that they're about to be suffering. So I think in that sense that's just a lack of mental development, like actual mental development. You just forget. Or maybe,
Well, intelligence is really just the ability to abstract, and they cannot abstract with regards to many things. Specifically, they cannot abstract in ways they were not taught to do so.
and the more abstractions you can form, the more the world sticks with you and all the things that happen. So then someone may appear unhappy, but they just remember things better.
Well, abstraction is the mind, it's the soul. It's what makes you not entirely a beast. Which is why others seem beastly when they can't abstract the same way you can. Which is, again, why empires start to exist, because people see their, like, whatever land neighbor is, and they're like, these people are objectively beastly. And so they invade. And they enslave them, and they take whatever material resources they have, and they sometimes try to kill them, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's always propaganda and saying that we're bringing civilization. But my only real problem with mundane people is that I'm forced to interact with them and be at their mercy for prolonged periods of time. Otherwise, I mean, that's only when my personal, physical world starts to change the way I look at things.
Well, like the people of who eventually established empires, it's because when you're around people whose paradigms are the paradigms of people who cannot abstract on the same level as you can, it's painful. You have to literally lower your mind to their level in order to communicate, in order to understand their reality. And that fundamentally disagrees with your instincts as a human being, and you want to kill them.
Yeah, essentially.
Which is why, there is this notion that Chad is the eternal conqueror and so on and so forth. But something that should be observed about Chads is that they are peacetime creatures, mostly. They offer superior physical genetics to be selected at the convenience of their nearest female copulate. However, Chads do not have incentive to create conflict. They were born superior, and so they are used to be superior and will not kill inferior creatures.
Well, in their adolescence, they might.
Yeah, as
Like
like a
boredom.
sport.
Yeah.
Mostly just to demonstrate their own superiority. They don't want the superiority challenged, is the only idea. It's a very inwards facing thing as opposed to an outwards facing one. Which is why the more peoples who haven't advanced in any meaningful dimension for a long time have very Chad-centric cultures, and those who don't have very Chad-centric cultures. I think that's a particularly relevant point to make.
It's very easy to be Chad even when you have no right to be in terms of your appearance, so long as you lack the introspection to constantly throw yourself at people and not care what they think. You don't even think about it, you don't get tripped up on anything because you can't even conceptualize that.
Oh yeah, Chad is an advanced form of cattle.
Yeah, he's the prime beef. Like, I don't have a actual problem with mundane people. Like, I recognize that slave labor is required and consumer markets and everything.
Well, slave and labor is eponymous.
As long as you can indirectly enslave them or, entrance them. Like I said, my only problem with cattle is having to interact with them because there's nothing to lower your brain. There's no incentive to lower your brain down because you already understand them. They're just a body, a pair of eyes, and a mouth.
Yes, they are a beast before they are a person.
Except the beasts don't have the tools of society to potentially use against you, and you can kill beasts. So they're
That's the main
worse.
cat. First of all, people in general, the cattle, only know how to use the tools they are taught to learn and in the ways they are taught to do. That's it. Period. They don't understand how to use a tool when they're not specifically told how to do with the tool and what to do with the tool. So they're not better than beasts. Because you can put oxen to pull a plow. They don't have to understand the plow. They just have to be told to get in the plow and to walk straight in a specific way.
They're not.
Same with horses.
That's what I'm saying. They're not better than beasts. I would prefer being around animals than them.
They are beasts.
They are beasts, but they're beasts that an ox, where instead of a plow, an ox can intervene in your social life and your ability to move through society.
Well, because social life in society is a farm.
Well, to me, it's
just different tiers, and it was more respectable when the only tier was the ground.
Yeah.
But that necessitates, you see, for there to be true progress. True progress means creating new tiers from which you can ascend. Tiers upon tiers upon tiers.
Yeah,
Those who work the ground, and those who work the ground, and those who work the ground.
Yeah, I only wish to have them destroyed in the sense that I'm sick of being thrown in with them and forced to interact with them and having to deal with them whenever they decide to swing their societal mass around. As for everyone else, I have no problem with ideologues and shit. I don't have a problem with. I don't want to bring people into our level of thinking because society already pumps that out. You don't need to do anything. You can't build a better system for doing that. Everything is as it is. It's just the problem of it's like you're being stuck in a box with the one level above actual cattle. They're just infuriating and annoying. And plus they have the tools that a human in society does. They can, at some point, try to kick your door in and steal your shit. They'll talk shit on you behind your back.
Well, because, alright, so what's irritating is that you are being made to live equal as cattle. Simply it. If it were not the case, you wouldn't have much to complain about. You could live as most of the elite live within your own island of a nice neighborhood or literal island. You wouldn't have much to complain about.
Well, they're not really. Everyone has their ideals of where they want to live in.
Well, there is something in common, which is that it's away from the pleb.
Yeah.
People stick to their class. Now, of course, the competing factor in our current system is currency. You have to acquire that. Oh. It's a bit of an issue acquiring currency. It used to be acquiring currency. It was very, what was the meritocratic. You Americans love that word, meritocratic. If only you were born 50 years earlier, right? And that would be fine. You wouldn't have any issue. You wouldn't be complaining like you are now. You'd be confident that you would rise above the pleb. It's simply that these days, it's somewhat dysfunctional, wherein many who shouldn't be a part of the pleb are kept to their ranks unjustly. If you want to understand any real large-scale discontent, look at social mobility, and you will understand why. Social mobility.
I think it's even more shitty because whenever your attempts to venture into having a bit more monetary success is interrupted by having to have a skinny, actually neck-bearded white trash talk to you about boxes for 5 hours. Whenever you could be developing skills.
Yes, social mobility is once again very much in the blood.
Yeah.
Mom and dad can pay for the big school, and if they can't, we're fucked. And even now, though, so much of the pleb can pay for big school, and they crowd out the others. It's an interesting phenomenon, isn't it? Because we're just now feeling it. It used to be boomer utopia. And for the longest time, actually, even if you go to the 1910s, if you were not the pleb on a mental level, you would rise through society, no doubt. It would be effortless for you if you were in the 1910s to rise to a managerial position.
There's hardly a difference between then and now. As long as you can. It's just that being a manager doesn't pay more and it fucking sucks and they'll just scapegoat you and kick you out.
Yes, and being a manager is not being a manager anymore.
Being a manager is just being a scapegoat. You're the guy that gets lynched because you can't blame any of the workers if they're in a union.
The machine is perfectly oiled, and, of course, it means that there is no more demand for actual intelligence. Well, intelligence. Yeah, sure, we'll go with it. It's a very nebulous term, Intelligence is not intelligence. Yes, currency remains a big issue. Big issue. Wealth, social mobility in general, big issue. Issue of our times. But it happens chronically, which is why the interest in history is particularly important for me. It happens chronically in cycles, and social mobility is always the precursor to crises. Large-scale crises.
Well, social mobility is kind of. Has it stagnated?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, you could say it's gone down in an abstract way.
Yeah. Especially in
Society
America.
is less socially mobile. Well, America is the world.
Yeah, it is.
New York is Rome, and America is the empire.
Also the perfect system of torturing minds into potentially ascending things.
Well, so was the ancient world. It's just that, of course, minds left a different imprint on the world than minds of today.
As long as we are mass torturing and mass educating people, as well as
Mass
giving,
torture is a given. Mass education is why social mobility has decreased. Education is a currency. It's a tool. It's a way of it's a way of teaching intelligence, of giving intelligence, of buying ability is what education is. You purchase ability, which is why those of natural ability are less valuable. But it's also why you or me are not on fishing boats right now, trying to get meat robots to bring in a catch. We could sit at home and discuss, the issues of the age.
it's good, and that inflicts a more profound kind of suffering. And then in the comfort that we have now, we're free to dialogue on it, utilizing the tools given to us by the constant bombardment of information.
As the Greeks did, from the comfort of their upper class and their class-given privileges.
As neck-bearded as it sounds to make the comparison.
Well, the comparison is perfectly adequate. Ancient Greece, class-based system. You had the people who worked and you had the people who directed. And that was the result of the Peloponnesian Wars, big wars, severe wars. In fact, it's arguable that some 80% of men on the Spartan side died, and some half of men on the Athenian side died. Now, of course, it used to be that only the pleb died during the wars. These days, war's a little bit of different business. We do still send the pleb to die, but when big wars happen, unfortunately, brighter minds have to perish. At the time, not at all the case. The cheaper your flesh was, the likelier you were to die in a war. And so what was left after the Peloponnesian War was plenty of brighter minds. An improved stock, if you will. And so they formed strict class-based societies, not just Athens, all city-states. And they emphasized having that upper class sit around and just think about things, think things through like we are now, because those Peloponnesian Wars, they were pretty much a mess. They were a fucking mess. The torture had gone through, and so they could sit around and philosophize.
Yeah, they did fight wars, as I recall. You need
Yeah, two enormous wars.
you do need to. The brutality of reality adds flavor and tests your beliefs. You're like, well, that saves you from dealing in autistic abstracts entirely, like ideologues do. They're just one ideologue. It's all just a spectrum between a beast and being God.
Tools. Well, you are confronted by extrinsic truth, a form of reality bringing whatever horror to you. And that prompts you to question reality, want to understand extrinsic reality. And that's usually a fairly easy task, although the Greeks did do a fantastic job of that. Pretty much a job that wasn't easily surpassed until thousands of years later. And still, in some ways, is far superior to what we're doing. But that's besides the point. And what they also did is to define the reality of their state. and of what they wanted for the future.
Yeah, they did have a. Did they? I mean, I think we even have, even more so now, more insane amounts of hard intelligence about the world at our fingertips. It just becomes more developed over time. That's the idea, is that the hells, the torture, the information, the the hells we create become more profound, and they become more profound in their torture, and then therefore their teachings.
We think so, but are they really?
I mean, they are. It's
You fundamentally understand that much more.
The hells we create are different than some, and they have the particular characteristic of being in ways we're not naturally prepared for. Purely artificial hells. If you had to fight in the Peloponnesian War, and it would be essentially like serving on the Eastern Front, you would be confronted with a much more natural kind of hell, a primordial kind of hell.
yeah, it provides different teachings. Like, it's more in your face hell. You have an enemy to fight. You learn the meaning of camaraderie and putting your muscle into things, having to actually put your flesh in the game.
Stare the beast in the eye.
Whereas, imperceptible hells, like what we live in, it's so good that people forget that they're in it, and they say that life is great. Which maybe it is great at times, but I'm not gonna forget what was happening not too long ago. And then, because you have no direct enemy to fight, you have no real goal to achieve, you're kind of, it's really difficult to describe all of the subtle relations you're having with the world, but it's because of that, it's more stimulating. It's more advanced suffering. It's more abstract and stimulating suffering. War is
Fair
good
enough.
in its own way. Like, war would just be one part of that. In a sense, you're kind of like wage cucking in a way is kind of an more abstract war. Except you're not even commended for your abilities or your service. It's just another grind, and you have no camaraderie with anyone. It's just a perpetual. It's like if the enemy was so amorphous and there was no goal to achieve other than your own survival. It's more stimulating.
I guess it's a point that all hells are natural hells, and I guess my earlier point, like, oh well, it's artificial, doesn't mean much.
Everything is natural, is the thing.
Yes. Is that our hells have become more complex. Complexity, though,
I think it really is that the more imperceptible it is, the greater the teachings are, as well as the suffering.
complexity demands a better ability for abstraction.
Yeah.
That's the upside. But the downside is that once you actually get past it, And you are able to perceive primordial reality, which is to say what is behind the circumstantial reality that you are confronted with. Well, that's a very simple one. The principles of human existence and mind are very simple compared to the complexity of the hells we live in today. Which is why you see a lot of deliberating on complex theories of human existence and raison d'etre and whatever. It's all so very complicated, so very esoteric. I read Jung, therefore only I can know how human mind works, when really it's clear as day. Or at least it would have been if you lived in a simpler time.
Would it have been? Because all of the disturbances that's just hitting your mind in so many ways allows you to put more parts of your brain under a microscope. And
Well, it's chaos.
yeah, it's
Chaos shows you possibility. But chaos also obfuscates truth.
well, if you lived in simpler times and you're in a more agreeable arrangement, and then I guess your mental gymnastics just kind of come to an end. And you're just like a person who moved out to a farm, and you're like, that's it. I'm just gonna live like this from now on. That's pretty much the end.
No, because you're visualizing yourself as a plebeian for simpler times. That's like visualizing yourself as a factory chink of today. That's not how that works. No, if you were, I don't know, an ancient world magistrate, better yet, the son of an ancient world magistrate, and you were thrown into the task of administering whatever plebeian mass of land and flesh that magistrate is responsible for, and you knew that was to be your responsibility. Well, it's a simpler truth because you are directly confronted with what you have to overcome. Whereas, what do you have to overcome today in this complex world from the comfort of your dank human room?
Because yeah, that's one of the good things about it is there's nothing to overcome, and that the struggle never ends, the thinking never ends, the coping never ends. It's all mentally stimulating. There's no thing to overcome. It's just a perpetual hell.
Yes. Well, that is in the sense that by not being confronted with anything, truth does not reveal itself at all. And so all you can do is rest upon the insanity of there not being a truth in your world.
When in the contemporary world, that's
Well, in the contemporary world, there is truth if you look for it, but truth won't confront you because you live in chaos and in a basement somewhere. Not as the son of a magistrate who has to administer flesh and land.
well because his world is more physical, but this it's the
Well, it won't be physical. He's the son of a magistrate.
it's he has administration over moving physical things around.
He has a concrete demonstration of what concepts he has to survey.
Yeah, he has actual rewards actual work he can observe being done through his will.
Well, his struggles won't um result in his life or death. That's the thing. That's the difference here.
Well, that's
Now, the magistrate.
No, the son of the magistrate. His trials are not immediately material because they don't immediately impact whether or not he lives or dies.
Right. What I meant by that example is that if you were someone whose task was to abstract in the ancient world, what you would be abstracting would be honed by a specific purpose, which is to be administering, whatever peoples that you are the magistrate of. And so that already frames and provides a feedback of evidence for you to advance your own considerations on the truth of human mind and behavior and so on and so forth. But it also means that you do get an opportunity for a simpler path to whatever truth there is to reality, to the extrinsic truths of reality. You administer your peasants. You reflect on peasantry in general. You come to certain truths about extrinsic reality. Whereas now, from the comfort of whatever hole you are in, there's nothing for that to be the case.
it would appear that there's nothing for that to be the case, but it's just more imperceptible. I think we assume too much about how much skill and thought a magistrate would put into things in simpler times. Like, it's just, is that any different from, being an official now? Like, how hard is their job? How hard is it to be a mayor? Even back then, there's even less paperwork.
Well, there's a little bit more today. Like we have the abstract notion of your interests colliding with the interests of other people, and that just expands exponentially with the different people you interact with. Because you're not on the top. You're not even in like the top 10 of your local region.
I think the problem is because of the more chaos and complexity that you were able to pick up on more things being utilized by the brain. Like, there's so many more variables to consider now that just hit so many more nodes. Like, there would be a simpler truth back then, but now it's like, it's similar to what someone said, like, the deeper we look into the universe, the more the universe runs away from us. But and yet we learn more about it as it does that. We're no closer to finding the truth, but we have obtained more from it. So you're not any closer to finding a complex truth, but you have accumulated more things from it. Is where the mental stimulation comes from. You build better microscopes and telescopes, and you just get deeper into a universe that you're no closer to understanding. However, you accrue more information about it. In fact, like the journey to understand truth now, it's like a never-ending journey, and yet it takes you through so many places, so many more places than before. To reference, drug trips, in my attempt to understand the things that I saw, it has never ended, but it has taken me through so many places in doing it.
The point I was making with ye olde people is that what truth they look for is framed by purpose, pragmatic purpose.
Yeah.
If you're looking for the truth of how to cure cancer, all you're going to really learn in the end, no matter what progress you make, is cancer. If you're a magistrate, understanding people and the management of a people will frame your abstraction, which is probably, despite your lack of access to good information, despite everything being simpler, would probably work in your favor because you are focused.
It would be more fulfilling, is the thing.
Well, it would be fulfilling, period.
Yeah, but that's not. Is that good for mental stimulation? Because then it's part of the never-ending, imperceptible hell. Is that it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you working forever. You don't ever really stop. You're like, I have figured out how to collect taxes in a cerebral way. I'm basically done. Like, I'm fulfilled. I feel great about it. The world is great. I figured it out. I understand things now. You might learn more, but you're kind of just flat out after that.
But then again, without purpose framing your path of inquiry, where does that lead? You have no feedback. Whereupon you can say, yes, like the tax collector, I have mastered this particular path I have embarked upon. Because there you are not manifesting anything upon reality, such as better collecting of taxes. Which is why there was a particular wheelchair retard who spent his entire life doing the most advanced mathematical inquiries, and all he found was that black holes are really black. He's fucking useless. Fucking useless. His purpose was to study whatever fucking star phenomena there's out there.
Well, but that you also need to diversify your knowledges, because what we do, incidentally, apparently being a Chantard drags you through so many fields of study that the end result is that your ego level is increased whenever you break it down and get it back.
Well, it's good data, that's it.
Yeah.
I had this thought when you were talking about how experiences are cause for personal growth and whatnot. And I think you're putting a lot of your own mindset on something that isn't necessarily true for the vast majority of people, especially in the case of Chantards.
I think in this case, it's like people who are well adjusted, they can. Because I was reading into like Alan Watts' life, and he's just like doesn't really have any hardship, just kind of
walks into everything. I understand that this is why I'm open to other people's perspectives now. But what I have found is that whenever I reach some sort of platitude, that it gets disrupted and then gets expanded, like the introspection, the what if I am wrong? Like what causes a Chantard's paradigm to break apart and then he reassembles something that forms a better one, more advanced one? It's just constant abstract juggling combined with incompatibility with reality. It's just forcing you.
But they don't all do that.
No, they don't, because something's going wrong. It's like all the people if you argue with ideologues, it just never ends. I go on Biz and there's just people who go on Biz or Hiss and there's people just worshiping the free market ad infinitum. It's not a perfect problem. Like, just because it fails doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just that if you just amass as many souls as possible and then throw them through the imperceptible hell of modernity, you will have obscenely profound minds that fit through the hole eventually. It's just that there's things that go wrong along the way. Like there's lackluster results, of course. People don't get all of the parts of their brain hit to stimulate them like that.
Well, you're talking about brute forcing things.
It's not brute forcing. It's so natural that no one even realizes that it's happening.
Then why doesn't it happen?
Because it's just the way the brain works. It's like, if you don't run into instances of introspection, you don't introspect. You don't develop your thoughts. It doesn't happen because I don't even know what that really argues. Like, are natural things supposed to create the most intelligent being every single time?
Consider this. Right, the pattern approach of the game book. Patterns. The more patterns you are confronted with, the more patterns you eventually match into your own pattern box in your head. Eventually, once you have a very nice collection of patterns, well, you start being able to. You have a better toolbox, in a sense, for understanding reality. More patterns.
Exactly, and I understand there's different amalgamations of patterns, but I found one that does work, and I'm interested in other people who found other ways to make it work. The patterns, it's just that's what we're doing. You're just constantly assimilating reality and amalgamating it, and then eventually your toolbox is actually objectively increased in some way. This is something I run into when understanding people's experiences on drugs. It's because their toolbox is too small, or they just, like, to the point that nothing even happens to them other than the hard physical effects if you just accumulate patterns.
Consider the following. Scientists are probably the chief offender in this regard. Yes, you could assimilate a lot of patterns. But when the assimilation of those patterns was never framed in the context of using them, of acquiring that pattern with intent to apply, with purpose, then that pattern is fairly meaningless because you cannot inscribe it in its proper primordial place among the other patterns. For instance, you are constantly shitposting on the Chans. You acquire all the patterns of human discussion, and you are able to interrelate these patterns and know how to use them because it was in the context of using these patterns that you first came to memorize them. Whereas your average technocrat is going to memorize all of mathematics by doing repetitive exercises and going to the different doctorate courses and so on and so forth without ever really keeping in mind what he's going to use all of this for.
Yeah, there's different ways of doing it.
Well, there's an only way of doing it, which is with purposeful intent.
I didn't have a purposeful intent initially. Well, I guess I was just trying to understand myself, and then I lost. I was actually fluctuating through purposes now that I think about it, all the way up until now. They were all delusional purposes, but now it's like I'm trying to physically represent things that are going on.
Consider this, though. These static animals, they have also fairly developed pattern toolboxes, especially in, social regards and so on and so forth. But there's just a gaping lack of purpose to their existence that makes them completely unable to apply that wonderful trove of patterns that they have.
It's a starting point, but to say that they're developed is like I've learned to not underestimate how underdeveloped the average person is through my day-to-day interactions in the real world. Like, people luck into things. People are the same as they were as a child, except as an adult, and they just stumble through life into things. There is a lack of accumulated patterns. There seems to be, like, perhaps their pattern is, just being a wage cock and being up to date on the hot pop culture, and maybe they could use that to schmooze people in a way. But I don't think that's enough to like lay that out or understand the science of it. Because you kind of have to. I mean,
it's a chicken or the egg problem, really. Patterns and a purpose behind the pattern is really just one and the same.
Yeah, we don't necessarily think things through when we start doing them, especially early on. Just kind of walk into them.
It's specifically because they are framed by very bestial base purpose, base will pervading their existence that they never touch upon the finer patterns in life.
The more invisible biological impulse.
Since pattern is really just projection of will.
What's the basis of what we're arguing right now?
Didn't realize we were arguing.
I'm just
under
making
the
sure
impression it was just a conversation.
I mean, not arguing, but what's the basis of? What's the foundation of the problem we seem to be having? Because it's just.
What is it we are trying to define, but not quite managing to do so?
I thought the disagreement was that I view everything through my own paradigm and everything should be done my way.
No, that was just a remark about a particular point you made and the way you phrased it. No, I think what we're trying to elucidate is the nature of whether well, see, here's the hard part: summarizing what we couldn't conclude on. Well, we started going back and forth on whether your progression is enabled in this brave new world as opposed to the old boring world.
All right. Measuring.
Yeah, so there was that dimension to the discussion. There is that the best way to express that progression is that you, in a sense, acquire experiences, or through experiences, imbue yourself of patternings of reality through which you can project your own will and purpose. And I think there was the way the two are connected is the idea of these groids, this cattle, the normies, as a universal constant, brave new world or old boring one, projection of will or not, there is something universal to them, which is that and that's where we were really discussing.
I don't know. Frequently, whenever we have these conversations, sometimes I miss a point, and then I listen back on it. I'm like, oh, that's what was going on. Yeah, I think.
Why exactly the normies don't make it? They just won't ever make it. And why exactly others, such as perhaps ourselves, do make it is also kind of how this conversation has been steering towards.
What makes an awakening?
See, that's already a very touchy term. Awakening.
Whatever you want to call it.
How is that any different from emergent phenomenon? You're emerging from a consciousness.
As in, you become more than the sum of the parts type of thing.
Yeah.
The idea of like awakening and the whole mage thing and so on and so forth is that you then turn around and start molding reality's patterns.
Yeah, like
That's a separate discussion.
Okay.
I don't feel like it's particularly appropriate either. Now that you mentioned that, just a thought I had too. Is it really necessarily a combination of experiences, or is it something innate in individuals?
Well, I mean, it is like due to the way that our brains work, dictated by the transfer of energy and how we adapted to learn our surroundings. We have to cause our mind to open up pathways by stimulating it with intellectual pursuits and experience. So, like, we have to. It would seem that it's experience.
Or is it one of those cases that it doesn't matter what happened because this was always going to happen?
Wow.
Chicken or egg? Paradoxes. How to solve them. 101 ways to solve paradox. See, this whole idea, so you have like the idealized extreme awakening. He awakens. And then you have the very, I guess you could say, mean, spiteful idea of saying a cattle, literally a beast. Literally a beast. Literally a beast. See, so we have a spectrum. And it's a simple job of finding what the midpoint is.
It is actually a spectrum. It's like, because there was never a point where I ever thought that I wasn't awakened. I always thought that I knew everything. I started off as complete tard, and then even now I continue to become, I guess, more awakened over time.
Yeah.
So there's not a point in which, like, what goes
You
into
start
causing
off-
someone to spiral into the awakening spiral.
Looking back where you were 10 years ago, yeah, you felt the same 10 years ago, but now that you have hindsight, you see that you were a retard 10 years ago. What changed?
Wheelchairs.
It's a complete spectrum. You just have to ensure that someone is in a beneficial spiral.
I think that's the issue. You see, it's not just someone in general. This notion of spectrum suggests that whatever fuels one end of the spectrum or the other necessarily can carry a person across. And I think from discussion, what carries you from one end of the spectrum to the other is this kind of accumulation of pattern. That's the ability to abstract in symbiosis with an accumulation of pattern. However, this idea of it was always meant to happen type of thing comes from the idea of people who have the opportunity to accumulate patterns and enhance their ability to abstract, right? When given the opportunity, they don't do so. Ever heard that before? People who have opportunity don't take it. Niggers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's where the notion of something innate comes. Why would this manifestly retarded individual progress from that manifestly retarded state into an altered, different, unnaturally advanced state of abstraction through an unhinged pursuit of pattern accumulation, while Chad, his handsome, intelligent, motivated classmate, did not end up doing the same thing and now watches football as a means of diverting his higher functions. That's where the notion of something innate comes from. Now, earlier we said, when you're confronted through suffering, confronted by the necessity to understand extrinsic reality, such as the Peloponnesian War, or having Chad beat the shit out of you, same thing, then that's when you understand why there seems to be a discrimination between individuals that goes beyond merely opportunity.
Yeah, the fate and free will stuff. I mean, everything was meant to happen the way it did, in a way.
And that's the idea. If you were fated to be tortured into having to confront extrinsic reality, internalize reality, and then in turn affect reality through sheer force of will alone, well, then you could come to the idea that you are fated to do so, but that would be especially egotistical.
It's only
There's nothing.
in the sense that only in the sense that uh, to go back to drugs yet again. There is I had this sensation of running into a godlike being at the crossroads of reality where it was unavoidable to collide into it. Like you can't. Everything since the beginning, it's just ripples moving out, and then because of our ability to perceive reality, we can break down these ripples into even smaller ones, and then they manifest into these things in the
Yes.
sense of that kind of fate. I mean, it's not like everything is not from a solipsist or egocentric way kind of fate. It's like this was literally the only way this could have happened.
I think when I said this is always going to happen, I think we have completely divergent understandings of what I meant. Dag. I mean, it didn't necessarily have to come about via exposure to all these different patterns on image boards. It could have taken any route.
You think
But
my paradigm
that
is limited
innate
to that?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this spiral does not have a set path, and if you hadn't taken that path, I don't know, you would have done something with math, or maybe you would have been a middle manager who was really good with people,
Well,
or something.
this is
But you've got that innate thing.
that's also something that's been interesting me when I'm looking into these high finance people is that the amount of marketing and the amount of psyopsing and understanding of society, that is roughly the same way you could go about doing this.
Like, surely it would be just about the same thing to conduct mass
Well, he's saying
psyopsis.
essentially this sort of genius is innate. And what exactly is your point about marketing and the billionaires?
Well, I know what he was saying. I just wanted to ramble about this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just wanted to shove in a random thought that I've had. It's just like the way we conduct things on the chat boards now. It's all just a big game of fucking with people's heads, shoving ideas around, and causing mass psyopsis. All marketing and all marketing is just mass psyopsis. High finance is just mass psyopsis, mass manipulation of vast populations of people, just constant screwing of heads. That is like another way you could go about doing this.
About doing what?
About collecting patterns having to do with just psyopses and the grand scheme of ideas and their interrelations.
Well, the idea brought forward here is that if that genius is innate, it doesn't matter the means by which it is brought to you, really. It's not about the flavors, it's about the calories.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, something innate in a person that would work on this person but not on another person.
Yes. A different type of beast. Therefore, calories, not flavors.
Various variables not being accounted for in trying to game it through experience. Yeah, there are plenty of things you could get into for why that happens, why some things work on others. Like every millisecond, every every tiny piece of reality that's in a different place has an effect. And then there's the, genetics shit, which that's all faded stuff. Things that you couldn't power game without a vastly controlled means of doing things, which is why I decided that society as it is the best possible route that we have for going about
Yes.
creating
Well,
these
that's not the
minds.
question.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I take the perfectly comfortable fence-sitting approach of saying it's a paradox. They're both fated and not fated.
I mean,
Very much like that wonderful Roman emperor was, it almost seems fated to become emperor and then fated to fail. But when you look at really what he's done, he's earned every single bit of that success and failure.
it's just the argument of, do we have free will? Which we don't, but you're supposed to act like you do, and
Well,
we've
that's the thing
it's
about
not
will.
worth-
It's a paradox.
it's not even worth acknowledging. Like, of course we don't have free will, but are you really going to remember that whenever you go back into the real world?
It's a paradox.
Right.
You do, but you don't.
Yeah.
You don't from an objective point of view.
Objectively, you don't, but
But pragmatically,
yes, you basically do. Yeah, it's a mind fuck. Objectively, you don't, but you're gonna forget that sooner or later.
it's a paradox. Like all good things, it's a paradox.
Yeah.
And notions of determinism don't have to be internalized by taking substances that force you to confront facets of a godhead. You could just read a book.
Right. Yeah. It's like I was. That's why I was reading up on Alan Watts' life, because he says a lot of things that resonate with me. I don't agree with everything, but he said a lot of profound things. And he did not have
I
a.
don't really like that man so much.
I don't like everything about him, but I have a few excerpts of things that he said, and they are extremely resonant with the conclusions I came to. And he came to these conclusions not through a life of suffering. He actually had an incredibly easy life, relatively. He just merely walked into Buddhism and then went on these. He just undertook study for a lifetime, and then he came to these conclusions that I came to. There are
Universals.
other ways of doing things. That, and combined with the fact that whenever I trip so hard that there's a point where the fabric of reality seems like it could just fall apart, is why I consider other people's perspectives more. There are other ways of doing things. There are other variables that go beyond my way of how I've attempted to power game it. Well, he argued the same thing, just accumulate, amass data that's useful, amass philosophies and sciences and shit. Amass
What did
histories.
he manage to do with all of that?
Make sick YouTube videos.
He accumulated all he could in his whatever lifespan, and then he died of alcoholism.
Oh, we're still going to die terrified and crying in our deathbeds. But
Whereas Alexander the Great accumulated all the patterns Aristotle was to bestow upon him. and his youth being taught by the finest generals of the Greek world, and then he conquered the Greek world and pissed on the corpses of so many Brigittes. Different ways of doing things.
Yes,
But then again, some ways do seem wasted upon the human experience.
right, there are wrong ways of doing things.
Like
Because-
dying of alcoholism.
Sure. I mean, whenever you get to that stage in life, you're pretty much fucked whenever you get close to death, no matter what you do. There's no that's the thing about death, is that it shatters all delusion in the face of it.
Yes, but I mean, he died when he was 50 or something like that.
It's not a good way to go.
That's
It's something to do with like his heart, something.
yeah. But great sage. Even by 50, you should have done something. You should have done something else than give seminars. Is all I'm saying.
He did a bunch of things like programming and shit. And then he gave up. He gave out, well, like the journey and understanding things like this consciousness bullshit, like we've been talking about. It's a never-ending journey that bears fruit, and I'm finding uses for it. Mainly autism simulators. That's my drive for doing it. I do plan to apply it to something. I mean, you could apply these understandings like many people do. I was just watching with Kitsune, that cult show, and that's what those people do. They apply their sociopathy and their understanding of psychology to just getting bored housewives and branding their vaginas with their initials.
Based in bread pilled.
Based in Chad pilled.
Indeed.
Based in brand pilled.
We should all be doing.
It's not even important what Alan Watts even did. I just took from his.
Yeah, no, but I wanted to make a point
Yeah.
on that.
No, you summed it up perfectly. It's not even important what Alex did.
It's important in the sense that people can take what he said to apply it to their own things, which is what people
That's
do.
true. That's fair.
Yeah.
He did do a good job of relaying his findings.
Exactly. That's basically what I like about him. I don't agree with everything because he has some really hippie, love everybody stuff. But it's this his when he looks at certain things like under a microscope, like the state of consciousness and shit. That's helpful stuff that people can take to apply to their own things. So in a way, the thing that he did was to spread his findings.
Chad loves your wife.
They were housewives. Imagine being some urbanite and your wife gets branded with a cauterized wire written in her vagina. Some absolute
Chad
Chad.
branding his picture onto your wife's vagina so that you can never see her cunt again without seeing his face.
Absolutely Chad pilled. As the adage goes, have sex. Another funny thing about, like, did you just read what I said about it? That one of the means of indoctrinating the housewives was to make them watch basic bitch gore, like Mexican cartel execution videos, which traumatized them so bad that they have PTSD over it. And then in the episode, they're like, how can someone watch something like this and not be affected by it? And I was just, me and Kitsune were laughing so fucking hard at that. Because the fucking mosque shooting video, I was laughing, cheering, and I was actually turning into a berserker, getting taken by like a blood frenzy.
Well, I watched that and I wasn't affected at all.
I wasn't affected negatively. I was affected like I was.
That's another story altogether.
Yeah.
I watch the videos and I chant for the return of Aslan.
Reconquista of New Zealand.
The Reconquista. You see, there is something to be said about how it's an issue of the times that people accumulate all of these patterns and do nothing with it. Absolutely nothing. They fucking, at best, they just relay the patterns.
Which is
Everyone's
useful,
a technocrat.
useful in its own way.
Yeah,
everyone's
a
a mage.
technocrat.
Everyone is magic.
Everyone's either black or a technocrat.
You can either. I mean, you just need patterns to do magic. You need some sort of semblance of order to make use of the chaos. That is why we construct these conversations and play tabletop games.
Wrong. We do that because we're bored.
Yes, and we, like a god, which we are gods, create universes to explore things.
The great Nubian experiment. We are just a science experiment.
How dense would a material have to be able to get a kiloton explosive out of a kilogram? That sounds like something for tabletop.
Yes.
Water bottles. Mortars.
Why use
Drone-fired mortars.
Why use electronic jamming devices when you could just dress up as a ninja and do everything by ninja shit?
Drone-mounted mortars.
I think that would just be a grenade launcher on a drone. Grenade launchers are mortars. Did you know that?
Yes, I know that, except when you scale up the mortar, you can fire bigger projectiles.
What is the exact measurement that a grenade launcher
Grenade
stops being a
launchers are
mortar?
artillery.
I thought they were small arms.
Nope, they're artillery.
Bullshit.
Just
sounds
like
like a
carrier
lie.
pigeons.
Carrier pigeons are artillery, but not grenade launchers.
I insist upon the fact that a drone is essentially a slow delivery shell.
Just like a carrier pigeon.
Exactly.
Just like in medieval times, the Turks would put cannonballs on pigeons, and they would drop the cannonballs on soldier formations from above.
Entirely the case. Suicide bird. He's the big bird.
Gigantic, flightless birds. They're extinct for a reason.
Me. Seriously though, how fucking annoying would a drone be? If it could just fly, if you could just fly a couple drones around a city with fucking jammers and EMPs on them.
How would you fly a drone with a jammer?
Well, here's the thing. You fly the drone to a particular spot, you turn the jammer on.
I see where you're going.
Yeah, stick the drone on.
You
and
can't
then
fly the drone anymore, but as soon as like someone gets to the drone, you turn the jammer back on, or you just do that for like an hour. You land the drone somewhere, turn the jammer on, it lasts for an hour, then you pick the drone back up and it flies somewhere else.
A timer would
Perpetually.
be pretty easy to rig up. Yeah. They
Or
have
better yet,
magic
those like
drones that fly themselves.
yeah, you saw like those fucking drones I linked you, where they look like little planes. You just have that fly over a city with a jammer on top.
What if you have a helicopter drone with an EMP jammer and you have it rest on top of a building and activate, and you have another drone come and get that drone? and
Here's
carry it
the
away?
thing: a helicopter would probably not benefit from an EMP going off.
It will turn off whenever. It will shut off when the drone activates it. And then
Here's
when the
the thing,
jammer
I
goes
would not
off,
want
you can
in a
send.
helicopter with an EMP setting off anywhere near me.
I
Here's-
would rather not.
Now, here's the thing: a helicopter drone, you can have it hover onto the building where you want what you want jammed. Because it can no longer fly, and whenever the jammer stops being activated, get one drone to come get that drone and carry it away. So then you never have to do anything crazy having to retrieve the drone.
Are you
why not just
positively
have the one drone
retarded?
turn back on? Yeah.
You don't retrieve drones.
I
You don't
would
retrieve
because
You don't bring the evidence of terrorism back to you because you're too cheap to dispose of
that
it.
drone costs like $300.
How
That's
cheap do
not
you
even
have to
one
be
shell.
that you would risk at least a felony for $300?
Oh, and they could just get the drone, probably your fingerprints on it and all the parts that went into it.
Implying
Fingerprints.
fingerprints. Enhance. Enhance. Yes, here you can see the Cheeto stains.
Dude, just rig the drone to blow up.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, let's make explosives too, so it's even harder.
It doesn't have to be a big explosion.
Yeah, but you have to
What if
make
you
it
wanted it
You
to?
can do one of those things that where it like sets off like something inside the drone that melts the inside or something.
It's gotta
Sets it on
be-
fire.
It's got to be an explosive that destroys it in a meaningful way, not just the circuitry inside.
Yeah, that's true. Something that sets it on fire. You just make the whole thing combustible.
Built out of
Handmade
wood.
wooden drones.
Also wood. Yeah.
Just fucking
Just have an
have the-
airplane made out of it.
just have the drone retrieve the other drone at night or something.
That's retarded. That's absolutely retarded.
Just do it. It'll save money and no one will fucking know.
Every CCTV in the city will see will see your terrorism drone fly.
What is our
Manually
target?
generate-
What is our target? I'm thinking of like a
Just
mini
picture
mart.
the police. Oh, there's this bad thing, an EMP and a jammer set off in like the
What?
middle of the
No,
city.
what's
We're
the
looking
scale?
at like where the source is.
What's
Oh, look.
the target?
The one thing in the sky.
Listen here, FBI agent. We're not going to name targets. This is purely for
How
hypothetical
big
purposes.
of a thing? How big of a jam are we doing?
Or
Because
like a mile, at least.
okay, if you're doing like a mass terrorism, yes, don't get the drone, destroy it. If we're talking about
What are you going to
robbing-
jam your neighbor?
Yeah, if we're talking about robbing the neighbor or robbing a mini mart for their ATM, yeah, retrieve the drone.
Robbing a mini mart for the cause with drones.
If you're
Yes,
robbing
nigger, if you're robbing supermarkets, you need the money.
yes, exactly. If we're doing mile-spanning terrors, yes, I assume your toolbox is a little better.
It's not a terror if you're robbing supermarkets.
You have to rob
I mean-
supermarkets to fuel the terror.
That's true.
That's absolutely true. Supermarkets carry up to $7,000. You need that. Crucial.
More than they do.
Have a drone-controlled pickup truck smash through the window, fire a chain around the ATM, and then drive away.
Drone pickup truck.
Drone. Everything is a drone. The police show up and everything is remote control.
It's
And
like-
as soon as they get there, you jam everything.
It's like there's a robbery going on in the store, and there's just like 20 little helicopter drones just like flying around grabbing everything.
The area looks like an AI takeover with just self-driving cars doing the loops in the parking lot and drones flying everywhere.
I'm pretty sure if they saw that, they would start carrying jammers or something.
Why did he do it? He stole $7,000 from a supermarket.
Yeah, the police start carrying jammers too.
Jiminy jammers to jam your drones.
They like after the first couple of drone encounters where they have to hit them all with baseball bats, they just start carrying jammers. What if a cop car got drone swarmed?
Here's the thing, yeah, drones can move pretty fast, all things considered, especially if there's multiple of them, you can't really shoot them down.
Oh,
And you can strap explosives, jammers, EMPs, whatever you want to deliver as a payload onto them. Now the real finesse would be managing to rob a supermarket with only drones. That would be something. Like holding up a bank with a drone.
There's a-
Several drones.
There's a drone with a handgun that holds hostages.
Exactly. Oh, that's an image right there.
It's like literally just a handgun suspended.
self-destruct. I'm gonna do it.
Is that covered by like bank insurance? Getting held up by a drone.
It's actually just like a 1911 underneath a drone with a firing mechanism. It just keeps the gun pointed at them.
Uh, They probably have jammers.
Well,
It's about hitting places that don't have jammers. That's the whole thing.
Mini marts. Yeah.
would you think a bank would have a jammer?
Jewish banks. Big Jewish banks, yes.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
like big ones, but not local branches.
Probably to like prevent ransom stuff.
I don't think they do.
I imagine if you rob New York
If
City
you
big
rob a
banks,
it's gonna start happening. But
It's a gamble. Yeah, it's true.
If you rob big metropolitan banks, you might start seeing sci-fi shit happening.
Metropolitan banks.
Yeah.
do they have banks in cities?
Yeah,
Yeah.
New York City. That's what I'm.
beyond like just the local branches here and there.
Big banks, the big Roman column banks that get robbed by supervillains.
And here's the thing. They probably have had pretty extraordinary robberies happen, but they just don't report on it to not inspire more crime.
They have their special services, internal security taking care of it.
Uh-huh. Don't worry,
Or
we're
911.
special services. The drone concept is good for terror, but robbing and all that stuff, I don't know.
It's silly for that.
I mean, if you have
It would be
disposable,
it would be useful for handoffs.
if you have disposable income for committing terror, then it doesn't matter anymore. As opposed to, I would probably I would say just walk into a mini mart with a jammer backpack and just take their ATM.
Just take the ATM right there.
Look at
Or
it's the
the
cool thing.
cerebral way to do it. Get your truck, decal it with ATM service, and just drive the ATM away.
Pretty sure they tell them if ATM guys are coming.
Pretty sure you can't
Well-
get your truck decaled for ATM service in the first place.
I'm pretty sure even just covering your license plate is a big enough risk.
It would probably be easier to like threaten an ATM guy into letting you steal something if you wanted
Or
to rob
just
an
steal
ATM.
his truck. Yeah.
No, not steal his truck. You find some ATM agent, you like, I don't know. Who knows, like you get leverage on him or whatever. You get him to do it. You get him to do the robbery for you. That's the cerebral way right there. And then he gets to say, ooh, I was blackmailed into doing it. Look, I don't have the money anymore. And then they'll say, oh, cartel did it. Because, of course, when you're doing it, you're going to say, oh, I'm cartel by.
Oh, I'm a lone wolf terror. I'm gonna use the money. I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding. I'm just cartel. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. I'm cartel. It's all right. It happens every day.
Yeah, every day.
Fueling the drug war.
This is just normal gang violence.
Normal, new extortions the cartel are resorting to.
This is gonna be the new norm. These are gonna be everyday occurrences.
Part and parcel.
You signed up for this.
ATMs is not cerebral at all. ATMs is a very subhuman approach. This is the money box. I will steal the money box.
People are doing it for a reason. I mean, they can carry a fuck ton of money.
A fuck ton is not $10,000, nigger.
It could
If
be
it
more than
carries-
10,000.
If it carries anything over $50,000, the security is probably rough enough that it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, that's why you take the ATMs. Because the only
Yes.
security there is a clerk who doesn't care.
The security for a $50,000 ATM is probably going to be fucking substantial.
I imagine they have
Where
GPS
do you
tracking.
even see a 50,000? An airport?
That's also a good point.
I googled it, and apparently they just carry anywhere between
I googled
10,000 to 100,000.
Yeah, they don't carry much.
That's better than wage cucking.
Yeah, nigger. I'm not risking getting raped by niggers for the rest of my life for $3,000. Split evenly between 30 guys.
30 guys.
Or
Like
even
implying
30
you're gonna
guys.
do it with less than 5 people.
You can do it with like 3 guys. That's what. You know what?
Even if you're
Steal
doing
a
it with 3
fucking.
guys.
You could just Google
5,000
ATM on LiveLeak and look at how they do it.
Fucking drive a forklift to the side of the building. But you need a getaway vehicle. So you already need to steal someone's car.
There is
This
a
is a lot
nog.
of felonies adding.
There was a nog who single-handedly just grabbed the ATM and walked out with it. He just didn't have a vehicle.
I saw it try to get on the bus.
Yeah. He just took the ATM and walked out. The only problem was he didn't have a vehicle.
That was reparations. It's just he didn't have any vehicle because of reparations.
That's true.
That's what happens when you show up with the reparations special credit card. You take the ATM. There is this notion of that there are things worth stealing because there are a lot of people out there doing the stealing. It's like drugs. Question is, are you going after the right things if a drugged up nigger is doing the same thing as you?
Well, maybe they're on to something. Because niggers need money.
But at the same time, if they need money, they clearly don't have money.
Yeah.
Niggers steal from ATMs.
It's not
Jews
worth
steal from governments.
Are you a Jew who can steal from governments?
I'm
No,
working
but
on
What
I
is
probably could steal from the next best thing.
What can I, as a white man, steal from? As the next level up?
Beneficiaries of the government.
old people.
That would be fine. Robbing boomers is an alternative to robbing ATMs.
The only reason they're worth robbing, though, is because they're beneficiaries of the government. You could probably rob single mothers, too.
Yeah. I'm fine with robbing homes as an alternative. ATMs, that's just one of the ways to go about doing it, but roughly on the same level, there's robbing homes, which niggers also do. Except niggers suck at it.
Niggers never rob old people's homes. They rob homes that are like 15 minutes away from their hood. You think they drive out to retirement communities and be like, yeah, this be good.
When I think of
Rob some
boomers,
boomer mowing his lawn.
when I think of boomers, I think of like McMansions and the slightly like middle class neighborhoods you can just find anywhere. Just hit those up. That's why I was interested in if EMPs and communication jammers would be useful for shutting down their security systems.
Yeah, that is particularly useful.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that loose end covered up, then you can. The only problem is the possible boomer with an AR-15, which I bet you can shoot him first, being in the darkness.
There is a pattern
You
to
gotta
good
remember.
theft. Sorry.
Boomers wake up at the same time. All of that. So
It's
you
true.
just get them when they're asleep. You get them 3 hours before they wake up.
with fentanyl.
Find their bedroom
Yes.
and pump fentanyl gas.
Squirt gun. You get a squirt gun full of it.
Now you fucking sneak up on them with a. Oh, you can't fire taser guns at them because they'll have a heart attack. And then that's murder, and then you're fucked.
Well, it doesn't look like murder.
Yeah, the big electrode fucking burn marks. That doesn't look like murder.
I don't know how that got there.
Fentanyl gas. It's probably the way to go about incapacitating them.
Yeah, incapacitating them is a good idea. They will fucking pull a gun on you, though. That's
they
the
absolutely
downside.
will.
So
The
you have to
scary
rob
thing is,
boomers in countries that aren't America.
Canada?
Oh yeah.
Canada feels good.
Well, here's the thing. Rob urban centers where they disarm themselves. Rob urbanites.
Canadians.
Urbanites.
well, boomers in urban centers aren't.
In Pittsburgh, because of the synagogue shooting, they disarmed themselves, but everyone outside of Pittsburgh still has guns.
Did the boomers in Pittsburgh disarm?
I actually forget if they passed a law to disarm themselves. But urbanites generally won't have a gun.
Yeah, I think the gun issue is the gun, and after that, neutralizing your average boomer seems like an easy issue. Well, there's a pattern to good theft well executed, and that's always stealing from stupid people. You steal from
Yes.
stupid people with too much money. Not even like a lot of money. Some stupid people have a lot of money, but they need all of that because they're the Saudi prince or something. And then people get angry when they lose their money because they're like, our Saudi prince has no money. What's going on? That's not the way it's supposed to be. But you steal from boomers. Nobody cares. And they are stupid people. So you exploit the stupid parts of their stupid. I'm not sure how boomers are particularly stupid and how that should be exploited.
They think that life is a movie, so play on that.
Willfully ignorant of everything.
Talk to someone as if they think they're the protagonist of a movie. Of a shitty movie. Not like Blade Runner or something, but,
Like a cop drama.
yeah, something they would watch.
A West.
Like Clint Eastwood, Miami Vice, Pawn Stars. Pawn Stars is a movie, but they watch that. Then they regurgitate it, like everything else, down to a T. Another thing that I see niggers do is, getting an abandoned place, pretending to be throwing a party there, and then when whites show up, hold them hostage while you go through their bank account.
See, niggers commit a lot of theft that is really dependent on being a nigger.
Yeah, they're having a dance party.
Like, they rely on the fact that they have a natural intimidation and subterfuge bonus. That means that they could get away with something as absolutely drastic as that.
They do what they're good at.
It's like extremely low skill organized crime, but it's still organized crime. I'd like the blackmail angle. Seemed pretty decent for boomers specifically because of the protagonist issue.
Do what neither of you have watched Aqua Teen, goddammit.
Watched what?
Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
No.
Well, the idea is just get people high and then take all their shit.
Yeah, but you see, the whole point is that you don't want the person knowing who you are.
Yeah, the guys doing that were from the moon, had a spaceship.
Uh huh.
That makes sense.
Yes. Shame I don't have a spaceship to go back to Israel with.
I would like to go back to Israel. Ship.
It's like a pattern. You steal a bunch of random shit in a very obvious way, and then you go back to Israel. Israel.
Home.
Um,
You know, there's probably a lot of money to be made right there too.
stealing from Israel?
Yeah. Though you
It sounds like
probably
the
have to
stupidest idea I've ever heard.
be-
It might
That's-
even be so
that's what I
stupid it's a
meant
good
to say.
idea.
They
You
wouldn't expect
probably
it.
have to be like a. Probably have to be a Jew to pull it off.
Robbing boomers along the Tel Aviv Strip. Well, here's the thing. You're not robbing stupid people with money anymore. You're robbing Jews with money.
There's a lot of stupid Jews.
That's a
But
good point.
that's an entirely different animal.
But when you rob a Jew, you're not robbing their home. You're robbing the country, and so the Mossad goes after you.
Yeah, I was about to say,
You're robbing the race.
if you rob Brooklyn Jews, then you basically have to hope like they will rally the entire district against you in any way that they can.
You rob some Jews like tax evasion artwork, and he will send the Mossad to kill you. I don't want to be killed by the Mossad.
Yeah, I'm also not too keen on it. I guess I guess that's why you have to be Jewish to rob Jews. Then they just put you in prison. Or
They have the
US
tribe.
just
Yeah.
puts
Boomers don't have the tribe.
Jews don't need to rob other Jews because they help each other rob Goyim. Except for rogue Jews.
Except when they rob each other anyways.
Yeah, like rogue Jews. Like random Jewish lawyers.
No, just like pretty much all Jews who also rob each other all the time. But it's considered good sport.
Yeah.
oh,
It's like
it is
football.
good sport.
Well played, fellow Chosenite.
Here's I have been checkmated. Well done.
Genteel theft culture.
Predatory mercantilism.
See, and boomers will have safes where they keep shit in it. Robbing a safe is like a great idea.
Yeah, they do actually. They have little safes in their closet.
If you're gonna have a safe, You're a fucking idiot in the first place.
Yeah, they'll have a safe with an ounce of weed in it.
Nice. It's the perfect like RPG style loot. You rob a boomer, it's like, ooh, bad luck. It was an ounce of weed. And then next time it's like, ooh, that guy has like
Bad luck.
$20,000 of gold.
I'd be fucking
But
selling
it's
that
not in the
ounce.
safe. It's underneath his house.
Oh yeah, that's also a fucking dodgy thing.
Depends. I mean, a lot of them, they just buy a safe, put it in their closet, and call it a day. Normal or small-sized safes. They like to have it in their bedroom or something. And you steal their drugs and sell it. I'd be on the street selling that. Looking for niggers.
Yo, nigger, I need to sell marijuana.
Yo, nigger, do you want to buy some marijuana?
This isn't suspicious at all. I'm not a policeman. I just robbed an old man's home.
That's why I called him a nigger, so he knows I'm not a cop. Hey, nigger, want to buy some marijuana?
Think I'm a cop? I'm with the Aryan Brotherhood.
Show them your
I'll
swastika.
still sell to
tattoo.
you. Weed is for niggers, and I have.
Would a cop have this, huh, nigger?
It would work too. They would buy it. They might get offended by the
prices.
nigger thing, but there's a 50% chance that they won't enough to buy it.
You alright, white boy? You alright?
It'll most likely be a respect among warriors kind of thing.
Ah, you too robbed old white people. You know, I'm thinking like vacation homes. It doesn't matter what age. If you have a vacation home, something's fucking wrong with you.
Or maybe you're just not poor.
Just rob them when they're on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Blackmail is still the best option, though.
If you can find anything, if you find their child porn, then blackmail them later.
No, it doesn't matter. You create the thing with which you blackmail them, but I think I've emphasized the point that they always have something that they would rather pay a couple $1,000s rather than be embarrassed about.
You rob some old lady and you plant child porn and cocaine in her closet. You don't want people to find out about these. Do what I say.
No, it's more like you do the fucking NSA thing of you get on their webcam and it's like, ooh, I'm gonna send your kids video of you getting naked, old woman. Isn't that going to be embarrassing?
I don't even know if that would work.
Pay me to. Well, here's the thing. You
That would
think it wouldn't work,
Easy to do.
It
but
wouldn't.
people
It
who
would
have
work.
millions of dollars don't want to lose face over $10,000.
That's so fucking. That's exceptionally stupid.
It
How
would
so?
work though.
It's like the old people I know. They'd be like, "Well, fuck that. I guess my kids are gonna see my ass now."
And all your employees also get an email.
Yeah, or you can do that and then like whatever, just go for like the whole package. Like, oh, this is we have you. I think the good one would be we have you a recording of you jacking. This is a good one.
I mean, yeah, that would be a little better.
just naked pictures of you is a little bit eh. I mean,
Yeah,
if you get them for that, they would pay like $2,000 for that. You get them jacking off. That's like the 10 to 50 grand range.
yeah, it's like one is
And
like,
at that
oh,
point,
you recorded them stepping out of the shower, great.
But still,
see,
like
that's gonna.
they would be willing to pay a couple grand to just
Maybe.
avoid the embarrassment of that.
It's like a coin flip, though, if they give a fuck enough.
Well, if they don't, then what? How is that such a disastrous thing?
Then, oops, this one's burned. Move on to the next boomer. Post some OC on Reddit or something.
No, and then you release it, and then they're gonna panic because it was probably just a case of them being protagoniggers who thought it couldn't happen to them, and then now their kids are watching them jack off.
Yeah.
And then you can be like, I bet you don't want to know what's gonna happen next if you don't pay, type of thing.
Yeah, that would work.
Like you release it and then you say, next time I'm coming to your home and I'm having sex with you on camera, and then I'm gonna send that to your kids.
And they already know you'll do it.
Yeah. What are the cops gonna do? Fucking cybersecurity, please.
It's a boomer.
It's a boomer. No, but even if like the cops come after them and be like, oh, we have to catch this guy. What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? Like hire some cybersecurity firm that's gonna be like, well, they hacked the computer. What do you want us to tell you?
The only problem I'm having with it is, like, if they give a fuck, there's nothing they can do about it. But it's just like the waste of, well, how are you doing it in the first place?
As a cybersecurity professional, more or less, just don't be stupid and you'll get away free every single time. The most that they'll be able to tell from the computer is the IP address of whatever connection recorded.
Behind 15 VPNs and standing in a Starbucks anyways.
Yeah. Literally, yeah. Get a VPN and stand in a Starbucks or don't stand in Starbucks. Dress up in a suit and bring a laptop and sit in the corner.
Stand in the middle of the Starbucks on the phone. I will show your kids me fucking you in the ass. And, what? It's a free country.
I have freedom of speech. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Call the police?
But you let homeless retards use your bathroom, and you won't let a businessman phone order coffee.
Yelling about ransoming over. See, you could do that. Christian just explained that his only access to Wi-Fi was parking in a mall in Australia to get the Wi-Fi there and just torrenting off of that. Also an option. Just use burner phones and devices and like have a fucking way of, making sure that they can't tell where your fucking car is. Easy.
Yeah, if you're
Pretty
not
easy.
a literal retard, there's no way it's gonna get traced back to you.
Like they would have to go CSI on you, and that would lead to like them finding your car.
And CSI doesn't exist.
And even if they find your car, you can just be like, I don't even know. Like you could just fucking have like an extra car or something.
It went CSI on me because and they succeeded because I wasn't even trying to hide anything.
Just sell it
That's
secondhand
not
and be like,
nice.
well, I sold my car. That was someone else.
Yeah, I would do it. The mall stuff is a good idea. Just get a burner laptop with a VPN. A $200 laptop.
200 gigabytes of anime porn.
All you need is an internet.
Yeah, you could do like a protection racket type of thing. It's like, oh, you pay me or I will send anime porn to your kids.
From your email address.
Yeah, there's plenty that you could get like a boomer to just snap over.
Yeah, anything that harms the Rico.
It's about being able to hack into boomer devices in the first place. That's a bit difficult.
Because again, it's set up by relatively competent tech people, depending on the neighborhood.
Well, like you have to like what break into someone's router, and then once you've broken into their router, which shouldn't be that hard. Once you've broken into the router, then you have to break into their devices.
These being boomers, their password is 9 times out of 10, it's one of the top 5 passwords. Either password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No,
Or
they have hexadecimal passwords.
no,
It's
they
tricky.
don't. No, they don't.
They just
Tricky.
gave me a new router and it's hexadecimal shit.
Well, router default passwords are different, but you just got a new router. Boomers are still using the same 10-year-old router.
Yeah, they do ask you what you want the password and shit to be.
Do a ghost mission where you break into their house to fucking hack the computers.
Push the router button.
Push
No,
the
or just like get their
WPS.
passwords or something.
Either reset router or push the WPS button, sync it with your phone.
And Dag, here's the thing with breaking into a router. You don't actually need to know the password because it does not take more than a day of brute forcing the router password to break the router password.
It's absolutely true.
You're talking
And you
about
get a
the
good
encrypted-
rig, you can do it in less.
I have hypothetically done this to my neighbor.
Yeah, I mean that is fine too if you're going to do the try
But that
everything.
requires physical proximity, and that's less than ideal.
Here's the thing. If some boomer is going to get like blackmailed through internet means, and the police finds out that he doesn't have the up-to-date encryption on his router, and his passwords were like some fucking bullshit password. And on top of that, when it started happening, he didn't do all the right things. Then nobody's going to give a shit. They're going to be like, fuck you, boomer. You should have done like the obvious security steps that everybody does.
And being a boomer, of course he won't have done any of those.
The whole point is that you essentially want to get into the webcams that are built into every computer these days and get embarrassing video of them.
Which is incredibly easy to do.
Alternatively, you could like fucking drone in a nanny cam. Have a drone fly into the fucking house and like stick a nanny cam somewhere discreetly.
Do you think a boomer would realize that the smoke detector hidden camera that wasn't there last week was new?
Well, how would you get a drone to do that though?
Well, you wouldn't have to do it. You could break and enter.
That's true. You could break and enter, put cameras in the house.
Have they released the insect spy drones to the public?
No.
It's still
They're
sci-fi.
small, but they're not that small yet.
It's not sci-fi. It's just that they won't let us have it yet.
I don't
A
even
boomer
think
sees
the
that he's probably
military
gonna
is
shoot it.
playing with them.
And yeah,
It's
Uncle
all
Sam's
still
needs it to watch
familiar.
Sand Niggers.
Sand niggers.
Oh, the
Why?
big thing with the military is big drones that are like 10,000 feet up. It's not the little drone.
Well, we're talking about spying on white people, not sand niggers.
Well, yeah,
Spiggity
that's why the military
spy.
money isn't going to that. It's all the skunkworks three-letter agency funds doing that.
I'm sure they have a few use cases for domestic use of insect spy cam drones.
Well, of course they do. I mean, you give them a toy, they're gonna come up with a
They've,
use.
they've already made it like a decade ago.
It's a good point.
Give them a toy, they will play with.
Things would be so easy if we had those dragonfly little insect drones just flying through people's chimney. It would be so easy.
Here's the thing: you have to get it into a house. The only hole you're going to get into a house is going to be they leave a window open.
Or they're getting groceries and they leave the door open.
Leave the door open. Who does that?
Boomers do.
Dad does. Yeah.
My dad does that and he wonders why there were bugs infesting the house last summer. He couldn't figure out why it was happening.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because they don't care about, they don't feel comfort inside of a home the same way we do. A home is just a set of walls that they walk into when they leave the bar.
Cameras in the smoke detector. No, just hacking into their fucking computers is a lot easier.
It is. And one, you don't have breaking and entering on top of all that. Two, you don't actually have to play with hidden cameras, get them anywhere.
Hickety hacking.
Hacking is easy.
Yeah, once you're on their devices, it's like you can do the whole you can get them jacking off on camera. You can get their passwords. You can get embarrassing details of how they've been spending their money. Just
Yeah, you
all
have
the
their
information that
bank
could
information,
possibly.
their
Yeah,
browsing history,
just
what games they
everything. You
like.
just compile all of that, and then you send them an email, and you're like, "This is Russian hacker number 25. We have all of this stuff about you. Um, deliver $50,000 in gold to this public park location, or to your family." I don't know how to hand over would be well executed.
Uh,
That's when a drone could be useful.
yep. Yep. Drone could be nifty there.
Well, the biggest problem that we're running into is that we have not encountered a place we want to rob, and we're just coming up with infinite possibilities.
Well, that's the
Well,
point,
of
is that
course,
you
we're
don't
not
want
gonna
about
name.
robbing physical locations.
Because these are all valid for what they're for. I am interested in the EMPs and communication jammers, and then working from
Yeah, you
there.
want to get into using toys, don't you?
Because it's something that they're not prepared for, and it has so many applications.
All right, here's an alternative to hacking into Boomoid stuff. You go on their property, you find a place to hide a jammer and an EMP. You turn it on, and you keep it on until like they hire in some repair staff. When the repair staff comes, you turn them off, and then the repair staff is like, Boomer, everything works. And the repair staff leaves, and then you turn it back on, and the Boomer's losing his mind. And then they call them again, and then you turn it back off, and then you finally are like, okay, Boomer, if you want your internet and electricity, you're going to have to pay us.
And then they call the power company. And then they force them
And they
back.
call the power company, and the power company comes on their property, and they're like, Boomer, nothing's wrong with your stuff. And then the power company leaves, and you flip on the jammer and the EMP, which is like hidden 3 feet below the ground somewhere on their property.
Hidden underneath a tree.
Do they have a birdhouse? Just put it in there.
Well, I would be like, no, you don't want to put in obvious locations. Just under the fucking house. See, that's not bad.
I'd probably just maybe not their roof. They're quite acquainted with their roofs.
Yeah, I would not. I wouldn't mess with the actual.
Because boomers really are protagonators, and they will like exhaust every option of help possible before like conceding that they may be in a situation where they have to give in.
It'll be like
They'll call the police, they'll call the power company, they'll look like everywhere around and under and over their house.
it'd be very spiritual for them. Having their ego deflate.
Do you think? I think they'd just be like going through hell for a week or however long it took, and then once they give you money and everything's back to normal, they'd immediately be back to too.
They
Yeah,
immediately
probably.
what?
Be back to normal.
Yeah, probably. It takes, obviously, takes a while. A lot of peculiar circumstances.
You don't want to try and give this boomer a spiritual experience.
No,
you
that's
want
not
to
it.
try and
That's
get
just-
$10,000.
It would just be funny if that happened.
Oh, it would be
Yeah.
funny.
In coincidence.
I just want $10,000. I don't care about him.
Then you launder that into weed.
It's not bad, right? Just an EMP and a jammer hidden on a property.
Ah, that's a good week's work, right?
You hide it on like 20 different properties around a city. Or not even the same city. You don't even need it to be the same city. Create this contraption that's both a jammer and EMP that like turns on and off at regular intervals or something. And then you let the fiasco go on for a week, and then eventually you ask for ransom. But since you have 20 going on, You can ask for what? 10 grand?
I think 10,000 is very reasonable and completely payable too.
$10,000.
But then you got to figure, how obstinate is this boomer? Like, is he actually going to think living without internet is worth $10,000?
Here's the thing, it doesn't fucking matter. You're just going to create a device that's going to have enough battery to go on for like a month, right? That's what you want. You want to create like a cheap
Is good.
couple $100 device with a jammer and an EMP and an attachable battery and like some kind of way for it to turn on and off like 6 hours a day at random intervals. You just program it all into it. And then you bury down their property and you leave it there. You just leave it there. A week after burying it there, you send the ransom note. If they pay, it's going to keep going. If they don't pay, it's going to keep going. It doesn't matter. You don't go and dig up the jammer. You just let it go until the battery dies.
No, you absolutely don't go and dig up the jam.
You keep the fucking jammer going.
And then it just stops for the boomer.
Just do it every so often that you form a relationship with the boomer.
You're in his backyard and he's like, okay, whatever, I'll drop it off in the mail.
And
For-
then you still jam it.
Still jam his fucking house. He doesn't give a shit because when you jam his house,
It's like
his
having,
fucking goes to her like mother-in-law or something.
it's like having a friend over.
Finally, some company. He's like barbecuing while you're digging up your jammer.
Because I'm just imagining some, especially if it's like a one-way relationship where the guy digging up the jammer with a shovel is like, he's still just like a spurg black hat.
Yeah, you don't care. You're just there for the money and and the boomer's over here trying to talk to somebody now that his son won't return his call.
Yeah, I like the jammer thing. It's all right. Pretty easy.
It's a fun idea. Could work. Certainly worth keeping in mind.
I should probably go to bed. It is. No, it's 4 a.m. Perfect.
That's a good time to go to bed.
Good time to go to bed.
Nothing like a good 4 a.m. one.
Do really enjoy
Nothing like it.
having the beer distributor right outside my window so I can watch boomers all day.
Good spot to find your victims, follow them home, plant a jammer in their backyard.
Just watch boomers all day, doing the one thing they like doing.
Spending money.
On escaping from reality. Through alcohol, weed.
You want a cold one? How many cold ones do you want?
I want a warm one.
A warm one over ice?
I want it with
Reheated one?
semen in it.
Black? I want my beer blacked.
I want you to black my beer. Is the bowl unstoppable?
Tastes like cedar. Very fruity. Very fruity. A bit of a. Oh, you could really taste the hops. You can really taste the hops.
Yeah, that's pretty much how all wine tastes to me.
I was talking about beer.
That's exactly how I review wine. That's exactly how faggy I talk too.
Yeah, I can really taste the hops.
And the cedar and the wine. That's some good wine you got going on there.
It was pretty shitty.
I want to go buy beer now. This
Well,
4
wasn't it
a.m.
like $8 a bottle?
I could
Here?
walk across the street and buy a pack.
No, the wine.
This would be
I don't know how expensive wine is here.
Well, you're in Europe, so the government subsidizes it or something.
No, we just happen to produce it, retard.
Keep telling yourself that.
Keep telling yourself Europe produces
European.
wine. Like I know, I remember in Spain, bottles of wine were you could get them for like €2 a piece. It was like water was a dollar, like 90 cents a liter. Wine was €2. And it wasn't bad wine. But now I'm in Switzerland. Switzerland only has subsidized beer. You're not allowed to tax beer in Switzerland, I think. At least not any more than other foods. I think that was what it was. Isn't Pops to Czech beer? Doesn't matter.
I'm not even sure. It's
Beer is objectively a fucking soda.
a poor person.
Absolutely unrefined. It all tastes the same, but it is a soda.
Yep.
The soda that makes me wish I was drinking another
It's
soda.
a carbonated beverage.
Carbonated wine is really good.
Look at this fucking pleb.
It's really good. I don't give a fuck. It's like grape soda and you get drunk on it.
Look at this fucking millennial putting
fucking
cheap
faggot,
wine in a
nigger.
soda stream.
It tastes so good though.
The bubbles remind me of when I was 5 years old.
I like to get a sippy cup and drink carbonated wine out of it.
My brain has been wired to only understand bubbles. Carbonated wine.
Drink the bubbly.
Literally grape soda that gets you drunk way faster than beer.
Nigger.
It's so good.
I bet it costs more than grape soda and a bottle of vodka.
I don't even know for sure because it comes in a giant jug that's like $9.
He's been buying grape soda the entire time.
Just the man that I
Rotten
get
grape
drunk on
soda
it.
that's gone bad. That's what he thinks he's getting drunk.
Make me want to drink it now.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like a beer. It's 4 in the morning.
This beer store is obviously closed, but people here like to leave their neon open signs out all day, all night.
Nigger dicks, great ones.
Bodie. It does not come in smaller size.
I'm surprised it's not really popular with niggers because it's literally alcoholic grape soda. They just drink straight malt.
Even niggers know that's gay.
Niggers are gay.
I also don't
Not as
understand the
gay as
concept of it gets you drunk faster. Nigga, just drink the liter. Nigga, just chug.
They do that.
I'm talking to the snow nigger here, who drinks
He doesn't
fizzy wine because it gets him drunk faster.
Then beer. And it tastes good. It's
Nigger,
if you were
just drink your beer faster.
It's like if you were just casually drinking like a Mountain Dew and it got you drunk.
Just drink the Mountain Dew faster. Yeah.
It doesn't get you drunk though.
Yes, chugging a liter of beer doesn't get you drunk.
I prefer to save on the amount of liquid space I have in my body. I will merge soda and alcohol.
Then
Imagine.
just drink spirit.
Imagine being a liquid lit.
I am so hydrated. I don't even know the meaning of pale straw.
He can't throw back 2 liters of water when he feels like it.
I haven't even tried the tap water here.
Oh, shit, you got fresh tap?
Sure.
Yeah. Fresh tap on tap.
Serieus me vir melk en aandag. Melk soms breek die harde.
Fresh tap on tap.
A lot of tap water here tastes fucking disgusting.
I hear that about America. The tap water has a flavor. Really puts things in perspective.
Some tap water is good enough to drink, but most of it's disgusting.
I wouldn't drink the tap. That's
It's full of fucking estrogen, anyways.
yep. And little plastic modules too.
Make your balls shrink.
Plastic is good for you.
I objectively don't give a shit about plastic.
Have you injected your state mandated daily dose of tap water today, citizen? It's the daily dose.
Thanks, Doc.
Do not exceed 50 liters of tap water
Virgin.
intravenously.
Shut up, virgin.
Have sex and so.
Intravenous tap water.
Drinking tap water is unproductive.
Yeah, I drink tap water. What are you gonna do about it, cracker?
Oh, who would have guessed? The BPA in bottled water is an estrogen mimicking xenoestrogen. Who would have thought? Why are there no fucking xenotestosterone in the shit I eat? Fuck is this gay shit?
Boy,
I don't really appreciate the constant anti-Semitism going on in this chat. Go.
Frog's gay.
Should put that out there and let you know that it's not okay.
Jew.
how can you be anti-Semitic if you are a Semite?
Oh, it's possible.
Oh shit.
Jew.
Right, so your choice for water is an estrogen imitator in plastic bottles, or literal estrogen in drinking water.
And the best part about it, Commercial water filters don't do anything.
Of course they wouldn't. It's a fucking hormone.
Buy as many Brita packets as you like. They
Fuck
don't
is a
do
Brita
anything.
packet?
It's a brand of water filter. Let's see if I post what they look like here.
Oh!
So yeah, you basically put the filter in and then fill it up with water and it runs through the filter. And it may or may not filter.
Seems like a gimmick.
Depending on how the gods feel that day.
BPA turns your kids gay. Straight up water turns your kids gay as well.
BPA made me gay.
And that's a good thing.
This shit's gay as fuck. Thanks, technocracy, for making everybody into a woman.
Good.
And why are there no fucking testosterone analogs? I want to look this up. Why is the only way of getting? Why is the only like natural steroid that exists out there is fucking eating raw onions in the morning, or literally injecting horse fucking steroids?
Oh, because testosterone is unproductive in a modern society.
Yeah, it's the impression I'm getting. All fucking technocratic shit is covered in estrogen for some strange reason.
How strange. I wonder why that could be.
It's coincidence. Pure coincidence.
It is a coincidence, though.
I wonder why that could be.
Wow, xenoandrogen is the name of the German article, and then when you switch it to English, it just redirects you to anabolic steroid.
Coincidentally, those are illegal.
Fucking why though? Why is titty Skittles not illegal, but this is? Well, there's the
I don't
obvious
know.
answer. The
I don't
obvious answer is that
understand.
estrogen is not performance enhancing.
I don't
Estrogen
understand
literally
why
doesn't
you
enhance any performance.
even ask such a question.
How the fuck do they make this stuff?
Faggots.
Somebody's doing ops on something. What purpose does fake estrogen serve? Decreases performance. Okay.
The increase
Apparently, steroids could drastically improve the odds of breast cancer going okay. But of course, women don't use it because, God forbid, injecting a little bit of testosterone.
Well, that's illegal. Did you miss that part?
Yeah, why would you do something illegal? Are you gay?
It's illegal, and that means it's bad.
Wow, interesting. So testosterone has. I've just read the xenoestrogen article, and there's nothing good about it. Fucking nothing. There's no like, these are the good effects. But here, anabolic steroid, it fucking, everything's good. It does plenty of things for you. It's good for the bones. It's good for the hormones. There's even a line in here about how they give it to trannies for energy, well-being, libido, and quality of life.
Yeah, those are illegal for good reason. So basically, my understanding of this article is that everybody should be popping Viagra at least weekly.
Viagra isn't testosterone, is it? It's just a
Is it not?
fucking no. It's just a fucking blood. All it does is dilute your blood vessels, including your dick blood vessels.
Oh, well. Never mind then.
Apparently, it helps with alcoholism-related issues.
And all the ways of coping with modernity, all the food that has to be produced for it containing estrogens.
Fucking all the food, regardless of what it is, whether you drink it or eat it, has more estrogen in it for some reason. It's
More
not
estrogen in
at
it
all a
than
coincidence.
women have.
It's true. Text people. Alleviation of gender dysphoria. Wow, who'd have thought that giving testosterone to fucking faggots would have alleviated the desire to be a woman from them?
That sounds problematic to me.
Uh-huh.
I can't put my finger on why, but I think it's problematic.
I mean, it just sounds like we need to pump more of it in order to stir more metaphysical friction.
I'm gonna start snorting steroids with LSD. Roid rage.
I'm pretty sure if you did that, you would become the next Aztec chieftain sacrificing people.
Adverse effects. Psychosocial. Sounds like bullshit. Cancer. WHO lists it under Group 2A, probably carcinogenic. You know what else is probably carcinogenic? Fucking everything.
I eat carcinogens willfully. Testicular atrophy.
Oh, interesting. So the issue, of course, with fucking people injecting steroids is that they drive their hormones up in peaks, which forces your body to essentially start converting as much of that into like the counterpart. It's not quite estrogen, but it is like estrogen analogs in your body. So it's like a sugar rush. These fucking niggers inject themselves with a ton of fucking testosterone, and their body, like a sugar rush, converts it all back into estrogen. These fucking
Then they
retards.
grow breasts and they're shocked.
Wow.
What they need to make is one of those like slow release patches for people who are trying to quit smoking. Except instead of nicotine, it's an anabolic steroid.
Well, nigger, you know what that is? That's the fucking thing where you eat onions. That's where the memes are from. 'Cause it fucking
Onions? Why
works.
would you want to eat onions? Onions are racist.
Onions are absolutely racist.
As a proud Jew, I've eaten onions today. Have you?
Onion salad in the morning, show up to work smelling like a fucking Greek restaurant. What is that? That's called toxic masculinity.
Literally.
Literally toxic. Can you do that? Can you show up at work in America smelling like garlic and onions?
They would say that smells a lot better than the usual alcohol or weed.
Smelling like weed at work. Jesus Christ.
Smell up like whatever I want. What are they gonna do about it?
Fucking fire you?
They can only at best ostracize you.
I work for the county. They can't fire people who deserve to be fired. The one person I'm aware of who got fired was fired because they came to work and then they smoked weed on a rest break
Mm-hmm.
at work.
Mm-hmm. Fucking absurd.
I can't smoke an onion. Well, I mean I could, but it's not
like
illegal
Onion
to
salads for lunch, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I like smoked onions on my burgers.
Also, if you cook the onions, it doesn't fucking work. You have to eat them raw.
Raw.
You have to eat them raw. I bet if I Google raw onions, it's gonna fucking tell me about the
All
onions
the
memes.
bad things that raw onions will do for you. Regardless, the raw onions probably won't work to boost your man hormone. First off,
Fucking
the 2 studies
American.
were conducted on rats that had raw onion juice injected directly into their stomach. Unless we have a real-life Peter Pettigrew situation at hand. That's a sick Harry Potter reference, by the way.
Epic Harry Potter. Based.
That fucking Quora. Like, it's like the 5th result on Google is like a question on Quora. Can you eat onions raw? Fucking Americans. Fucking Americans. Don't know. The first result for raw onions testosterone is, does eating raw onions boost your testosterone? 4chan thinks so, from the Daily Meal.
Yeah, that's what I was reading off of.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
The memes.
Mhm.
it
The
was like
memes, SpongeBob.
a year ago.
These
The soy boy thing.
Nazis are eating onions.
From the New York Magazine Intelligencer, 4chaners are eating onions to be more manly.
Oh, this one's good. From a life hacker. Drinking raw onion juice is a bad idea no matter what people say in 4chan.
Quick New World Order rollout
Trust
to
a place called the
psyopsis.
Life Hacker, right?
Oh no, they found the onions.
Mommy found the onion drawer.
Technocracy needs onions removed from the public consensus.
Watch the fucking
Those
technocracy
damn
scramble.
4chaners. How can the hacker known as 4chan keep getting away with this?
Pittsburgh police released body camera
4chan
showing an
pranks.
officer employing a neck hold on a Bay Point man who later died. The family of 32-year-old Humberto Martinez has sued for wrongful death, claiming
Humberto Martinez.
the video shows officers chasing Martinez.
See, the onion shit is real. It's because if you did that IRL, you would actually start feeling the paradox. Everyone around you that catches you eating onions would probably pester you constantly. They would feel compelled and they don't know why.
They throw rotten tomatoes at you.
Dude, why are you eating this onion?
You pull
Don't
out
you
an
know this
onion in
tastes
public and the police tackles and tases you.
And they don't know why.
Onions making you cry was a giant psyops.
That's like the perfect indicator. If the onions make you cry, you have too much estrogen, so you need to eat more.
It's crying the woman out of you.
It's crying the woman out of you. Crazy thing is, for the longest time, I would eat salads of red onion with tomatoes because I was too cheap to buy the white onions. And
Well, the
red
red
onions
onions
fuck
better.
you up. Red onions are so strong that you will try to swallow like a good chunk of onion and it will burn your entire throat the way down
Martinez, then
until you feel like you're having a minor heart attack. And then I learned to love the pain, and then I moved out of Spain and I stopped doing that.
for an expired tag, but say they were investigating.
Well, it's 4:44
People
a.m.
wonder
In the
to
area,
bed.
why the Spanish and the Greek men have the darkest skin.
The medical examiner ruled
Nordic men.
from having
Because
the
they're the
bloodstream was
most
brain cut off.
masculine.
More onions. Romanians, most masculine people in the world. Who else has impaled as many Turks as Romanians?
I got nothing. It's the Romanians.
Nothing is more heterosexual than driving a giant penis-shaped piece of wood inside a Turk. Onions, boomers, jammers.
Good talk. Well done.
Anyone ever watch that Batman Beyond intro? With all that text, it's like conspiracy, fear, terror flashing across the screen. It would just be like boomers, onions.
Jammers and ESPs.
There isn't an. There isn't an.
Come on, spit it out.
I don't even.
Surely this is proof.
Missing a lot of vegetables. They have all the fruits though.
That's because eating fruit makes you gay.
They have almost literally every fucking fruit. Why are there kiwis? Oh, oh, they have this as an emoji though. Honey pot.
They also have this one.
Specifically, a businessman in a suit with sunglasses, levitating.
Levitate.
It's
Is he-
subconsciously saying that only the technocracy can make you levitate.
Yeah. That's an op.
It's yet another psyop.
All a psyop. Levitate emoji.
That's just the newest
Yeah.
emoji for
It's
levitate.
always a man in a business.
Only the technocracy performs miracles. You're gonna get burritos before the place closes.